Hey, well, good evening, everybody. How we all doing on this fine St. Patrick's Day? Hope everybody's having a good week despite all the crap that's been going on out there. I hope everybody out there is healthy and staying safe and keeping your distance from all the nastiness that is out there and daunting our days. Hopefully, everybody is still kind of at work and things like that and making a living. I know it's getting pretty tough out there. I'm hearing it from a lot of different people. Being a business owner myself, I'm also feeling the impact too. So that's not a lot of fun. But tonight we are going to try to take your minds off of this whole coronavirus crap that's going on. We've all heard it. We're all freaking tired of it, and let's just have a great, enjoyable evening. So we figured, what better way to do that? And let's have a celebration. Let's have a St. Patrick's Day little party. Get yourself a nice cold beverage or two. Enjoy that with us, and let's talk about some canoe planning, because I know a lot of us are just itching to get out here and do a little bit of paddling. So without any further ado, let's get right into that. So anyways, this is our 23rd episode of Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight, because without you guys, I wouldn't even be doing this and having the fun that I'm having. This is an absolute hoot, getting to interact with everybody out there. So I appreciate your patronage and the fact that you're sticking around and coming back from time to time. That's awesome. Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show is a weekly series that's geared towards bringing you closer to the great outdoors. And basically, we do live interviews with the YouTube personalities and outdoor people and topics that you guys really enjoy and like. And I hope that's what keeps you guys coming back. And of course, we're live here every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mark it on your calendars. And just to give you a little tidbit, I see somebody in the chat that's here tonight that is actually going to be our guest next week on the show, and I'm looking very forward to that. And that would be Karina Alexis from Alexis Outdoors. So we will be talking with her next week, and I'm sure that's going to be a fantastic show. So make sure you put that on the calendar so you can tune on in. If you also want to know what's coming up with upcoming upcoming shows here on Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show, make sure you check us out on Facebook at Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show. And I'll be posting on there upcoming guests and events that are going to be taking place here on the show. I'm really working hard on getting some great guests here over the next while. So yeah, make sure you get onto that, like the page, and follow what we got going on. If you have the opportunity, please try and share this out right now. Try and get it out on your YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I know that's a bit of a pain in the butt. Or even your community tab here on YouTube, if you have one, just to try and build the audience, because I've got 3 great guests that are going to be on here tonight and a lot of paddling experience. So that's going to be a good thing. We want to fill the house tonight. And as you know, I love to hear your feedback. So if you have any feedback or suggestions for upcoming guests or topics, drop me an email at canoehound@gmail.com. I'll throw that up here on the screen right now. And I would love to hear from you. And let's see who you'd like to see on the show. It's always interesting, and I'm learning a lot, or getting to meet a lot of new people based on the fact that you guys and gals out there are making suggestions, and it helps me to get these people to possibly be on the show. So that's all a good thing. Just want to shout out some of, some of the people that we have here in the live stream. If I miss you, I apologize, but just going to go through a little bit here. We got the other guy in a canoe. We got Backcountry Paddler, Adventures with Josie, Cool Quest, Lucho de Basque. We got Brian J. We got Dan Schultz Outdoors. We have Everything Spicy. Of course, KC Happy Camper. We have Ryan's All and Everything. Camper 69. 704 Midas. Nate Muskoka. We've got a great mix of people in here. Of course, Alexis Outdoors. Thanks, everybody, for coming in tonight. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already done so, please smash that thumbs up button, because you're going to like this show. I guarantee it. It's going to be right up all your alleys. Let's see here. Now, everybody knows this is an interactive show. Like I say, we've got 3 great guests on tonight. If you have a question for anybody pertaining to the show, or for anyone in particular, please do put the question in the chat over here, but put the word question in capitals beforehand so that I could read it and find it, and I could recognize that as a question for the show or for our guests. And while I'm on that topic, I just want to apologize. We had last week I missed two things that come up on the in the live chat, and it's something that I'm very grateful for. It's something that's not expected. I received 2 super chats, and I totally missed them in the live chat because in the StreamYard software here, I did not see the notification that I received the live chat or the super chats. To the 2 of you that, and you know who you are, who gave me the super chats, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, but it's not necessary. Enjoy the show. If you do support the show, I like I say, I appreciate it, and it all goes back into giving out different things that I can, covers mail costs, production of decals, and whatever else I might give away on the show. So it comes back twofold, right? That's awesome. Without further ado, okay, I could ramble on and on and on and on here. I'm going to get right into the show because we actually have a lot to cover tonight. We're going to be talking about the ABCs of backcountry canoe trip planning. Okay, so whether you're already experienced in canoe trip planning or if you're a newbie to this, either way, you're going to get a lot out of it because there's going to be all kinds of great tips coming from 4 people that actually have got quite a few trips under their belts. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first guest, who's a frequent flyer here on Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show. He's been on here many times. He's the author of many canoe route books and all these how-to books, and he's written numerous articles, and he does work for CBC, and just an all-around great guy. We got Mr. Kevin Callan. Casey, happy camper. How you doing there, Kevin? Happy St. Paddy's Day.
Hey, how you been, Lord?
We're supposed to do that. There we go. We got him, people. That's awesome.
Hey, look, I got a jig going.
So, needless to say, you're doing pretty good amidst all the things that are going on these days, huh?
Oh, yeah. Man. I think everybody wants the ice to be out so we can escape.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. Our next guest is a past panelist. He's been on the show before. Probably maybe about 4 or 5 episodes ago. He's the star of a Rogers television series called Mark in the Park, and he's also an Algonquin Park tripping guide. And his name is Mark Rubino. How are you doing tonight, Mark?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Awesome. I feel like this show is going to be very upbeat tonight.
Yeah. I see you drinking beer, Dennis, but I see behind you Jim Beam Devil's Cut.
This stuff is like dark gold. This is Jim Beam. I could read you the whole thing, but they got Jim Beam Black, and this is, I think, the Primo. This is the one that's.
I'll have to keep my eye out for that one.
Yeah, I picked that up at the duty free when we were heading down to Dominican Republic, so it traveled all the way down and back with me, and it's good stuff. That's yeah, I'll just say that. And let's see here. Our third guest tonight on panel is going to be one of my canoe partners come our ice out trip here in Algonquin Park here in 2020. We've been talking back and forth a bunch of times, and we have similar interests. We even have canoes that look like twins. They're like brothers from different mothers. This is Ethan from Avid Outdoorsey Guy. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. How you guys doing?
Living a dream. We all got a little bit of a green theme going here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm representing as usual, even on the beer.
There we go. So we're not gonna banter on here. We're just gonna kind of get right into this. But I kind of broke this whole thing up into a few different categories so we could try and stay on track and cover as much as we can here within a 2-hour period. I've got a bunch of different categories here. I'll just go over them really quick so everybody kind of knows what we're going to try to cover, and then we'll just get straight into it. So hopefully we're going to try to determine how to pick out a destination, right? The difficulty of the trip, beginner, novice, experience, there's a bunch of different levels, especially when it comes to river travel and things of that sort. how long you should be planning a trip for, especially if you're a newbie, how many people are in the party, what gear is required, how much food is required, where will you gather trip information, different resources and things like that. And I know there's a few people over here and down here that could probably give you a million different ideas of canoe trips from easy to very difficult. And then we'll get into some safety and security questions and things like that. And then, of course, what seasons should you be tripping in? That's a big one there. Are you going to be dealing with bugs? Are you going to be dealing with cold, extreme hot, low water levels, things like that, right? Mm-hmm. So let's start with how do we determine a destination? Kevin, what's your take? How would you go about picking out a destination for a trip?
It all depends where you live. What do you want to get out of the trip? How many days you got? And how far you want to drive? And what's even more important is like, Pine Martin, I'm wearing this tonight just to show you what a fish really looks like. Okay?
Poor Martin.
Pine Martin. No, it all depends what province you want to go to. I mean, we're talking to people all across Canada, United States, maybe even the UK, right? So how many days you got? How many nights you want to go for? And what do you want to get out of the trip? And do you want to do whitewater? Do you want to do lake travel? What's your skill ability? What's your group skill ability? Like not just yourself, but everybody. And the average canoe trip, I would say, goes from 12 to 22 kilometers per day, depending on portages and stuff like that and skill set. So, yeah, so it's not easy at all.
No, well, there's a lot of factors, right, Mark, that you got to consider when it comes to, like, it's more than just throwing a tack at the wall, right?
There's a lot of factors. I think a lot of us like to do our canoe tripping during the winter months, and the problem that I have is looking at a map, like 3 or 4 kilometer portage. Yeah, no problem, I can do that. And then come 5 months later, you're like, what the hell was I thinking, right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of need like a little bit of a dose of reality when you're planning your trips ahead of time, because what looks good on paper isn't necessarily, what's the word I'm looking for?
The best trip that you can want, right?
It doesn't actually, work out the way you want it to. So,
it's not like you see any details, right, on a map, aside from maybe some contour lines or like, little hashes that show rapids or something. But you don't know what you're getting into until you actually get out there.
Yeah, actually, that's you touched on something there, like contour lines. I never used to pay attention to them until recently. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why. I just like, you go on a trip, I'm like, oh wow, this is a surprise. But if I look at it on a contour map, the trip on a contour map, and I see all those lines, I get all like upset, and I'm like, no, I don't want to go that way now because I can see how steep it is, and so I try not to look at those lines because it makes things more complicated. And so what I do is that I just actually ignore the lines sometimes and just go with the trip. Say the hell with it. Yep. And discover and have more fun on it. Well, not necessarily more fun, but have more adventure on the way through on my trip. So,
and determining your destination or where you want to go is it's not always an individual's choice. Like Ethan and I and Dan Schultz, who's in the chat there, we've been talking back and forth through different chat mechanisms and messaging and things like that. And we had a few meetings before we actually chose our ice out trip, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're trying to figure out what was our objective for the trip. I mean, we agreed we wanted to do fishing, and we're like, okay, we want to get deep, like backcountry in Algonquin. So probably starting in the north would be the best option. That's pretty deep, and that's more remote than most people go in Algonquin. So we agreed to start in Canoe Lake.
Yeah,
kind of worked out from there. What options do we have there? What can we do for our allotted time for our trip?
Mm-hmm. And yeah, but like I say, that was like a 4-man decision, right? Or not 4-man, sorry, 3-man decision.
Definitely, yeah. We went back and forth with so many different ideas, and we're like, okay, finally, we all agreed like this is probably their best bet.
Yep, yeah, for sure. So, like, what other factors should go into, like, I always like to, when I'm doing it, I'd like to say, okay, I want to do, say, something in the Gogama area. And then you start doing some research, and there's a lot of different resources that you can actually utilize to plan or to find canoe routes. One great source is something like YouTube right here, right? And all the personalities on here. There's other resources available like MyCCR. You can go on there and you could actually find trips and trip logs from people that are, you know, a 3-day trip, a 4-day trip, 5-day, 6-day, things that are loops or routes or in and outs, right? So you have a lot of different options there. And then, of course, you have, you know, all the writings of a fellow like this guy over here, right? That's really captured so much, and you know, a lot of people uses his books to plan their routes, right? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, that website, MyCCR, interesting to go back in time. That was one of our first online sources. I mean, everybody at lunchtime would check MyCCR, and then we've got the help me out, the Tuolumne one, Ottertooth, and the Algonquin Adventures. So all those forums, so they're fantastic information. Everybody's sharing, and blogs are out there all over the place. And but it all started off with, in fact, to me, it was Nick Nichols in the library, his book back in the 60s and 70s. And then, the M&R put this book out. Does anybody recognize that?
The New Routes of Ontario.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a little book. So you would look through it, and it would show you the pamphlet of what route that the M&R maintained, and you would actually mail them a letter. This is before all this stuff, right? And then they would mail you the pamphlet of the canoe route with the map on it, and it was the junior rangers that maintained it. So that's how it all started. And then you got Hap Wilson, right? Nick Nichols, Hap Wilson, Eric Morris.
Hold that up again. That's got my tattoo on there.
What?
Yeah. The wolf howling there at the moon.
Really?
Yeah. Hap was kind of almost embarrassed when I showed him my tattoo. Right? It's like,
you stole Hap's book
right there.
for your tattoo?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I'll show you my tattoo.
Well, okay, there it is. A dollar sign. No.
Sorry.
Hey, we didn't say this is going to be the cleanest show, did we?
Cheers, my lord.
Yeah, there you go. Kevin, do you remember the days when you were actually able to contact chambers of commerce of particular areas, and they would have all that information and send you maps and everything else?
Yeah, they were the last two to actually have Crown land maps available if you ever wanted them. So, and that was a long time ago. So things have changed, but when we got into chat forums like MyCCR, it changed a lot because you can just get information online, and guidebooks and blogs and stuff like that. But that's how all that started. Yeah, pretty interesting. So all you got to do is basically get out there and start doing some research, start digging, and you'd be surprised what you will come up with. And the reason why I brought up was that the Chamber of Commerce was a couple of years ago. I was researching doing the 4M circle route up near Gogama, and I come across something that said that you could contact the Chamber of Commerce and they would have stuff. And I contacted them, and they hadn't a clue. They hadn't a clue about that, and obviously it's because they don't do it anymore. But the lady had put on a gentleman that she knew as a canoeer in the office. And he happened to have an old map, which he made me a photocopy of, and he sent me a map of it. And it was like really outdated and unclear and the whole 9 yards, but it gave me something to start on, right? So it's well, you'll just shock you. Am I echoing? I'm echoing. Yeah? I'm echoing?
You sound fine to me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
What happened back in those days was, for example, Andy Baxter, he worked for the M&R back in Nipigon. And because he was a canoeist that worked there, he would answer everybody's questions. It was never his job to answer them. So that was the beginning of things falling apart. And then the last interesting one was when I did a route up to Kirkpatrick Lake area in Goma. That was a pamphlet, and I went to do it. And a retired biologist from the Sault Ste. Marie district, he contacted me by phone. He said, "I have no pamphlets for you. They were actually thrown in the dump. The M&R threw them out. They didn't want anything to do with the route anymore. So could you please go and maintain that area?" So things changed a lot during that time where they actually did not want to maintain the routes anymore. So there was a time where it was difficult to find the information, and now it's easier to find information. But for trip planning, it really does go back to, let's say all 4 of us are going on a trip, and let's say like Avid Outdoors, you want to go on a fishing trip. Make sure all of us want to do that fishing trip. If all of a sudden Mark in the park doesn't want to, he better tell us that that's not what he wants out of the trip. That's the number one thing of trip planning. Everybody needs to tell everybody what they want out of the trip, so everybody's happy. I've been on trips before where 2 days into it, someone that I don't really know on the trip because it's a friend of a friend says, "I'm really bored. You guys are just fishing all the time." I was like, "Yeah, it's a trout fishing trip. What's wrong with it?" And so it became really, a bad experience. So trip planning number 1 is make sure everybody writes down what they want out of the trip.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So a little question for Mark, seeing as you are the Algonquin guide, and this is probably something that you run into quite often, is dealing with, newbies into canoeing, right? The beginners, the novices, and the experts, or the ones that have a lot of this under their belt. What's your take on that as far as planning a trip? What should they be looking for when it comes to that type of thing?
You actually be surprised how many people don't bring sunglasses.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, there are some necessities that a lot of people don't think to bring. Sunscreen, sunglasses, camera, stuff like that. But those are just like icing on the cake. Those really aren't the necessities. But usually when I'm taking out a group, I ask them what they want to see and what they want to do, what their experience level is, what their expectations are, and just be ready to answer any questions that they have, and try to accommodate every question and concern that they have. The newbies, I find that you really have to hold their hands, even like when it comes to portaging, to paddling the canoe. And that's not so much of an issue at all. Sometimes it's actually the more experienced people that you take out, because they get in a canoe and then they take off. And it's like, hey, come back. You got to wait for the rest of the group. They're all excited. They know where they're going, and they kind of forget about the rest of the group. And that's one thing I try to encourage, whether it's newbies or experienced people alike, is we want to stay together as a group. It's not just a safety thing. It's also an experience thing. You want everybody to be together, to feel safe, to enjoy the camaraderie. And also that person in their canoe might have your food pack or water filtration device. So, because with multiple canoes in a canoe trip, how the gear is usually broken up between several different canoes. So it's also another reason why you want to kind of stay together. And also, too, if bad weather comes into play, there's another safety issue as well.
Have you ever found that, like I say for instance, a person who's never wanted or never had experience canoe tripping has said they wanted to do a trip that would be way over their head as far as skill level is concerned?
Not really. I think I had one person that wanted to do that, and I just tried to shut them down and say, I think what you should do is just try baby steps, because if you do that, you're setting yourself up for failure. And I didn't want to.
Definitely didn't like that.
We'll let you tell us about that, Ethan.
But you don't want them to kill themselves in the process. I mean, you don't want these people to go out and have a bad experience and then turn around saying, "I'm never going outdoors again." Right? You wanted to make it safe, fun, and completely enjoyable for them. So, like, I did have one guy. He wanted to do this. He wanted to try the meanest link, and I'm like, well, maybe you should get a couple of paddling trips under your belt first, right? Before you do something really ambitious like that. But yeah.
And that's what I mean by, a novice maybe wanting to do something like the meanest link. When experienced paddlers have a difficult time with it.
Yeah. I don't think that's the thing. If you a trip like that, you're best to have like a mixed bag of experienced paddlers and maybe a novice or two, and maybe even an instructor would help as well, right? So
experience through the meanest link, but I don't think I'm near in good enough shape. I would die. I don't think I could do it.
I'm kind of hoping I might be doing it again this year.
Was that right?
Yeah. I don't think anybody's ever done it twice. So
Yeah, there's a couple of people this year doing it twice, maybe even 3 times, I think. But
oh yeah?
rumor there's a bunch of people out there who would answer this for me. But Avid Outdoors, if you don't want to do the Miss Link, if you don't think you're in shape with it, then don't do it. Like there's no reason to do it.
I want the challenge. I want to do it.
Well,
It's just I have to get in major shape before I do it.
Yeah, but we've talked about this before. If you challenge nature, you'll die, man. Like, don't challenge nature, okay?
There's some words of encouragement right there.
We're learning this right now. Nature is God, or God is
I know.
Yeah.
I learned hard. Okay, I have to make mistakes.
But my meanest thing too. I mean, Andy went with me, and there was a certain point on that trip where he questioned what he wanted out of the trip and what I wanted out of the trip, and we almost left that trip because of that. And we decided, both of us decided, no, we'll continue on, but we did it in a different way, right? So it's all to do with group dynamics, and even solo. Like, you better get along with yourself if you're going on a solo trip.
Solo trip can be rough. I mean, day 6 of my solo trip last year, I was like getting a little annoyed with myself over stupid crap. Like, just little things started to bother me. Like, I would do something like, why am I doing this? Just little things.
What's this? Wait a minute, Mr. Pine Martin. I know Kevin doesn't, because he forgets gear all the time.
Actually, you know what? Seeing as you read that question, that's something I'll be sharing with everybody in the chat tonight. Is I am a gear list guy. As you can see, there's my gear list, and I will make that available to everybody if they want a copy by email. We'll touch on that later once we get into the gear portion. Just because I don't mind sharing this, because it's something that, there you go. Yep, it's you know what? Nothing worse than forgetting something, and I got to do the same with my food list, because 2 years ago, I forgot my bacon.
Ooh.
Yeah. Almost as bad as forgetting the coffee, because we like bacon wrapped walleye or something, right? Yeah. So, yeah. So, Ethan, you kind of piped up when you said about you put your hand up there with the experienced novice. The
ambitious goals can ruin a trip really fast. They really can. And you gotta be a realist about your trip planning. For my first trip, that was that solo trip to Algonquin. I planned on 5 days doing this huge loop with the Tim River. And I'm like, let's go. I've never even been on a canoe trip before. And I made it halfway, not even halfway. And I'm like, I'm going back. I'm turning around, going back. Done. I can't do it. My body was just done. You got to be a realist about it. You really do. You can't be too aggressive.
Yeah. Especially if you don't have the paddling experience. If you're like a complete novice to it, you might want to maybe take a course, or you might want to try and get out on a trip with experienced paddlers, because we've all started somewhere. Nobody started their life as a professional paddler, right?
Yep.
So you have to get out, get yourself hooked up with people that maybe have experience. And ouch, that hurts, Kevin. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Sorry.
Did you see down my dress? What happened? I got. Oh, here. This is how I taught myself when I was a wee young lad. I read these books.
Oh yeah.
And this book was the Bible. Actually, still is the Bible. So, we all start from somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen that book by Cliff Jacobson before.
What?
I've never seen that book by Cliff Jacobson. Yeah,
that's his book. He's written lots of books, but that's his book.
Yeah, I've never seen that one. Wow.
Yeah, if you want to go to the far north on a canoe trip. Yeah,
I don't have a very extensive canoe tripping library. I've got like a couple Kevin Callan books, and
well, then you're fine.
So other guy in the canoe wants to know: to anyone's knowledge, has anyone done the Meanest Link solo?
Yeah, I met him at the Toronto show. There's probably more than one, but I met one young guy, and I don't know him. I don't remember his name. So sorry if he's out there. Tell everybody. But he did it last year on his own, and no glor or whatever. He just started. Yeah, I did by myself. Yeah, it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's something I would want to enjoy with somebody, I think.
Well, you know what? As with any trip like that, though, you don't want to set yourself an exact timeline to do it. You might want to give yourself a couple extra days, right? Because
Right.
Yeah, but I was wondering when you did the Minas Link, how long was your trip in days, and did you have a rest day at all?
We should have had a rest day. It was 16 days, but that's because Andy, I allocated 3 weeks, and I wasn't in no rush to do it. I said, okay, I get 3 weeks, but he didn't for holidays. So, I told the story before, so I'll do it in a nutshell. He basically, by the time we got to Cedar Lake, he wanted to finish it no matter what. So, because of things that happened on the trip. So we booted it to finish in 16 days. But that wasn't our character to do that. So I was never out there to do it in 7 to 8 days, and hats off to you if you want to do that. But
I know it's not a race, but some of the guys seem to think it is a race.
Yeah.
I think those guys from Northern Scavenger like crushed it in like 8 or 9 days.
9 days. Yeah.
It's unreal. Like those.
So much for enjoying the scenery, right?
Here's a moose.
Yeah. And you know what?
We did it in 2 parts, actually. When we did it,
the Minas Link in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have Bill Swift on the show, and I'm hoping to talk a little bit about Bill Swift Sr. and then of course get into the whole Minas Link and how it started and what the Minas thing means, because there is a meaning to the word Minas, right? You guys know that one, yeah. So we'll touch into that once we have Bill Swift Jr. up. So.
Okay, enough about the Minas Link. The normal people out there do not want to do that. So let's get into the nitty gritty. Come on, Dennis.
Yes. Okay. So another thing that we have to determine is, or how would you determine how many people is best for your party?
Good question.
Yes. Because going with a party of 8 people on Crown land is kind of foolish sometimes. Yeah,
Mark answered that on his interview a couple weeks ago. I really admired that. Basically, I don't do more than 6 because it's anarchy. You can't do more than 9 in any park, especially Algonquin, because in the old days it was 3 per canoe for camp kids. So that's how you get the number 9. It's kind of weird you have number 9, not 10 or 6, whatever. So that's how that came to be. But if you got 4 people, that's good. If you got 6, that's okay. After that, you're just having too many issues going on with different opinions. And if you've got a huge camp group, I get it. I take youth out. If you've got like 24 of them, you better have leaders to deal with every 6 people of the group. So
yeah. Then you have food issues as well. Trying to cook for that many people.
What do you guys do with this? And I don't. You guys probably differ from me. So we basically make every single canoe self-sustained. So my buddy and I will have our tent, our cook set, our meals, and then the other canoe will have the same thing. So we don't split. We don't make a big meal for everybody. That's debatable. But what I like about it is when we have contests, we have the best meal, the worst meal. But every canoe is self-sustained, so therefore you don't have any conflict of what do you mean you forgot the cooking pot, so that sort of thing. Yeah.
But you know what? Like I say, I've done canoe trips where we've had 8 people or more on a trip, and it's if you're the person who's organizing the trip, it's a logistics nightmare trying to figure it out, and it's almost as if you're babysitting everybody. So if you try to go the route where, okay, everybody's responsible for their own stuff, then stuff gets left behind, and it just becomes such a chore or fiasco to try and get all that type of thing planned, right? Whereas if you're a smaller party, you can plan a meal for 4 people or 6 people if you're doing it that way, right?
It's true. It both work, just whatever you prefer. But it is really important to make sure that, for example, if we're all 4 of us are going, Dennis, you're the leader, so if everything goes wrong, we can blame you.
Yeah, and it happens all the time.
Yeah, and so you do, even though when actually I'm with my buddies, I'm kind of on holiday because I spend my time taking youth out, whatever. I don't want to be the leader, and so I'll say, hey, Tim, you're the leader for this trip. I don't care, but at the same time, it's also Mark and Park's. It's his job to get the tent set up. Avid Outdoors, it's your job to get the bear rope hung up before it gets dark. So everybody has a job. So if anything did go wrong, it's like, well, sorry, that was your job, right?
Yeah.
So also, if you do like factor in the amount of people on a trip, right? One of the biggest things is trying to for a larger party, trying to find a campsite, say for instance on Crown Land, that will suit 6 people. And of course, a lot of times you get these larger groups of people, and nobody wants to share a tent. They all want their own separate tent or sleeping quarters, right? I know the fellas I canoe with on a yearly basis. This past year is our big canoe trip. We had 4 tents and 2 hammocks, and that was 6 guys.
Wow, that's a lot.
So try and find on a canoe route that's like sort of a lost canoe route where sites aren't maintained at all. It's difficult to accommodate that.
What's this? You guys don't want to sleep with each other anymore? Like, what's going on?
Well, I got a hammock just for that purpose. They could have their tent pads, and I go sleep in a hammock in the middle of the forest somewhere, and I'm happy, right?
But nobody here is okay sleeping in a tent with someone else. Like that's what we always have done. Like,
It didn't work out.
Yeah, this is a snoring society, right? Everybody snores now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I snore way too loud. Like, as you can see in Joe's video when I slept in the tent with him, can't do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point, because Bill Ostrom from Ostrom Outdoors, when he goes on trips with us, and his wife goes with us, and he sleeps in his own tent way back in the woods somewhere. So yeah, okay. He's pretty loud.
Wow.
And actually has fried gas too.
What's your take on that, Mark? Like, when you're guiding a trip, do you have a limit as to how many people could be in the party?
Well, personally, I like to have no more than 6. But I've taken out more than 6. I've taken out 20 kids before, and that's a nightmare.
That's a nightmare.
One time I had to escort 60 Germans up Lake Opeongo, and like 20 canoes. It was stupid.
Wow,
it was not fun. And it was like, okay, you got this group here. You go camp on that site there, camp on this site here, camp on that site there. And I'll come back and check on you. And then 3 days, we're all going to come back out. And that was it. I'll never do that again.
Wow, man. I hope you got a good tip for that one.
Nope.
Zero.
Yeah.
We won't even touch on that.
But the smaller the group, the more easy it is to manage. Also, too, like your interpersonal relationship is much more involved with the less people that you have. So, each person of your group gets more attention, can become more involved in the trip. Like it's less chaotic as well. And of course, the meal sharing, there's less people to blame. So that's a bit of a problem. So, but yeah, I like smaller groups. It's more fun. And it also increases the solitude factor. If you got 20 kids around, there's no solitude. And not only that, there's other campers on the lake that really aren't going to appreciate that much. So you got to kind of tell them to shut up or keep it down, after a certain time. And being like an avid fan of solo tripping and small group camping, the large stuff is it's a job, right? So, but I try to discourage large groups from camping. Also, too, from an environmental perspective, can be kind of destructive, hard on a campsite.
Yeah.
A lot of destruction of the topsoil, like a footpath, the thunderbox overflowing. The boughs being stripped, like for dry twigs and stuff, and also the wood supply, and also too little tiny tidbits of garbage I find everywhere in campsites when you have large groups. Mm-hmm. It's inevitable.
Always.
I don't think I've ever been to a campsite in Algonquin Park where I haven't found at least 2 or 3 little bread closers, those little tabs.
Yeah. People
take it off their bag of buns or English muffins or whatever, and they toss them, right?
Yeah.
Always find them.
I always find cracker packages, like little cheese on cheese little packages. I find those every time.
I find pistachio shells all over the campsite. Like that's what the fire pit's for. Like,
yeah. So, seeing as we're kind of talking about food, we'll jump food ahead of gear because gear is going to be a nice long one, obviously, right? So, I'll ask each of you your opinion on it. I'll start with Ethan. What's your opinion? Do you do a group cookout? Do you do individual? Everybody responsible for their own meals? What's your choice on that?
Individual. It's so much easier. You get exactly what you want and the exact portion size you want. Every person for themselves. You carry all your own weight, all your own food. everything. You don't. It works out perfect. You don't have any person upset about food situation because they brought their own food. So it's all on them.
And what a fresh, freeze dried, dehydrated.
I'm a fan of dehydrated because I do my own.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a second choice, it'd probably be like the Mountain House, Backpacker's Pantry, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I stick with my homemade dehydrated stuff for the most part. And it's nice because I can make it in such bulk. Like last year, I made so much that I don't even have to make any for this year. I have enough left over. So that covers me 2 seasons. That's pretty awesome.
Cool. And what about you, Mark? What's your preference on that?
It kind of depends. Like on organized trips with my friends, like say for example the trip we did in February, the winter trip, we're each responsible for breakfast and a dinner for the group, and then we also share ideas about lunch. So one guy might decide to bring sausages and buns and cherry whiskey for lunch one day, and the next day, cherry whiskey, it's awesome. Okay, Fireball whiskey too. That's the next day, and hamburgers over the grill. When I do guiding, okay, yes, Devil's Cut, sure. When I do guiding, I do everything. I cook everything for everyone, so that way the clientele, the customer, can just sit back and relax and enjoy the park as much as they can. If they want to pitch in and help cooking or want to plan a meal, why not jump in and do it if you want. Also too, on some trips, I do like with some of my friends, we have like side-by-side solo trips where we all camp together, but we paddle solo. And usually on those trips, we all fend for ourselves, where we'll just cook our own meals. And maybe share snacks and drinks at the end of the day. But usually those kind of trips, we all fend for ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're kind of doing this year, right, Ethan? We're all kind of fending for ourselves. Yeah. I still think we need to have a steak dinner in there, though.
I mean, the first night, definitely we can. I mean, it's early ice out. Then shouldn't be a problem. Just keep it in a cooler and then take it out before we leave.
So now, Mark, I did notice, too, that in the first season of Mark in the Park, like you said, you ended up doing most of the cooking. And some of the things you're pulling out of that food barrel were pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's some new food and desserts coming up on this year's show.
Oh, okay. Well, it was on your show. You guys were doing the freeze-dried ice cream and ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah. That's the first time I ever had that.
Oh, those things are awesome.
Yeah.
Every time I go to MEC, I come home with one.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah, like nothing like paying $7.99 for a freeze-dried ice cream sandwich, right?
Oh,
what's yourself, Kevin? What's your take on meal plans?
It depends on the group, right? So my preference is to each canoe be self-sustained. If you're backpacking, then it's a mini group of campers. My main Algonquin group guys, they've changed the last couple of years. They do dinners so separately. So Tim will do one meal, Ashley will do one meal, I'll do the other. For breakfast, we still do that per canoe. So we have at least 1 or 2 different type stoves in case one conks out. For lunches, it's all on everybody's own. Like we all snacks and lunches, right? So, and it's all good and bad. I like the whole separate. Every canoe has its own meal plan because again, you have those contests, which is a lot of fun. We have prizes, right? Okay, whose meal is the best, who's the worst, and I kind of like that. I do that with my students, but I get the other. But I mean, last year. Tim made an amazing meal of sausage and cabbage, but oh my God, everybody stunk so bad. And I'm thinking, please, Tim, can you make sure you don't bring that again? And, everybody has their different sort of gut reactions to food, right? So,
yeah, I'm extremely picky. So I'm always down with bringing my own stuff. I am so picky. I can't do it. Like I have to know exactly what's in my food. I'm like a toddler's palate. It drives me nuts, but it's the way I am.
Yeah. On our trips, usually, it's usually, I've always told the story. It's always my buddy Jay and I. We're a regular at the, like every year. It's then we bring on other people if they're willing to join us. But it always seems that we plan the meals, right? And then I get stuck doing all the shopping. I get stuck doing all the cooking, all the packing of the stuff. And it's one of those things where I really want that to change. You know what I mean? Make everybody responsible for a meal if we're doing fresh. But I'm really starting to like this whole freeze-dried or dehydrated meal plans where everybody fends for themselves. If I want, say, for instance, chili mac and cheese, and Ethan wants to do pasta, and Mark wants to do chili one night, and you want to do a fresh steak, then you know what I mean? It's everybody can do their own thing, and I kind of like that idea. Yeah.
Yep. I just want to say something real quick. I saw in the chat somebody asked about eggs. I learned about these from Winter Trekker last year, the YouTube channel. These things are amazing.
I didn't think you could get them in Canada anymore.
I don't know. I ordered them on Amazon, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, these are awesome. They taste just like eggs. There are eggs. They're freeze-dried eggs.
Oh, that's good.
Just a packet of them. And there's like 5.3 eggs is what it says. It's what the whole package is equivalent to. And they're awesome. They really are. Throw some butter and salt and pepper in there with them. They're amazing.
When I take eggs, the one thing is get them at a farm. Don't buy them at the store because it's come out of the egg a long time ago and the mucal protection is off it, washed off it. So if you go to the farm, it's going to last longer. And if you use a barrel, that's fine. Stuff around it. Or what I've done for years is I put in an egg container and I've duct taped it underneath my canoe seat, and I've never broken eggs with that. I would say though, after day 3 or day 4, really question taking real eggs. You don't want to get food poisoning out there.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna look those things up there because I do like eggs when I'm on a trip, and I don't like carrying them. Right, so we've resorted the last couple of years to, you've probably seen in the cooler section, the cartons of eggs, and they're gonna last you a day or two. It's like they're in like a little milk carton.
No. The moment that liquid is outside the shell, bacteria is going nuts on that.
Oh, come on, Kevin. They got it all laced with chemicals. You don't have to worry about that.
Good luck to you.
No, that's usually like a second day type of thing because we'll put it in there with our frozen steaks and if we bring sausage or something. Like I say, our food weight is way too heavy when we do trips. But trying to unspoil the guys is kind of a hard thing to do. I'm going to have to say one day, everybody responsible for their own food, right? And they'll all look at me like a deer looking in the headlights. He's like, what?
It gets personal, though, too, because I remember on a trip I had in Algonquin, we're out for 8 days, and day 6, this guy, he didn't bring much of anything, and then all of a sudden he's eating my jubes and all my red ones, too. And I went nuts on him. And he goes, what's your problem? I went, I carried my jubes in my pack. I have them at the end of the portage. That's what gets me through the portage. What gives you the right to take them? And the next day, what's he doing? He's taking my toilet paper. And I'm like, what? He goes, well, I ran out of mine. I went, that's too bad for you. I mean, you know what? I shouldn't have brought that up tonight. That's a sort of touchy subject right now, toilet paper. I was trying not to. Oh,
we're good. We're good.
I'm switching to whiskey.
Yep.
Mixing drinks.
So Kevin, what's your favorite canoeing meal?
I dehydrate all mine. If I backpack, I might take those dehydrated packs. They're expensive and they give you gas and they're full of salt. But dehydrating your own is a lot more fun. And I got a dehydrator. You don't need a dehydrator though. You can do it in your oven. Just lowest temperature with what's that wax paper you put on?
Parchment paper.
Yeah. So you do all that, and I do shepherd's pie. I do a lot of curries. I do a lot of pastas, a lot of rice, a lot of couscous and quinoa because it's actually lighter and more nutrient value than just pasta and white rice. So I switch it up and make and my day off. Yeah, I do the mac and cheese with dried meat in it. That's not good for you, but that's my day off meal. I make sure about every day 4 or 5, I catch a fresh fish, or I make a cabbage salad. So I'll bring a cabbage and balsamic vinegar and make a good salad. It really helps your gut after you eat all that dehydrated stuff. I know, Pine Martin, that's a problem with you because you can't catch a fish. So that you might have to.
No judgment here, Martin. No judgment.
I don't know how I can help you with that one, but
Poor Martin's not going to want to watch anymore. Sorry, Martin.
no, you do know, Mr. Martin. If I'm making fun, it's the St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick would telling himself, if I'm making fun of you, I love you for God's sakes, man. Sure.
Mark, what's your favorite go-to meal on a canoe trip?
Steak and potatoes.
Yep. That's my all. We're one and the same then, because like I don't mind the dehydrateds and all the other meals and everything else that go, part and parcel, but that first or second night there when you're doing the steak.
Second night, nice tasty steak with some roasted potatoes over the fire, with a little bit of cheese in there too, and garlic. And later on in the trip, if I can catch a brook trout with some wild rice, that would be awesome too.
Mark, have you ever tried this? This is fantastic. If you next time you go to a Algonquin, so catch a lake trout, okay, and catch a brookie, or if you're in walleye country, catch a walleye.
Yeah.
Those fillets in the belly of the lake trout. Put onion, put lemon, and a bunch of garlic, and then sew it up, and then bake it in the fire. Whoa!
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Amazing.
Is it just the mixture of the different fillets? Is that is it?
I think it all has to do with people are watching you, and they're like, I think he knows what he's doing.
What are you sewing? What are you sewing up the belly of the fish with?
Yeah. I actually bring thread.
Really?
Yours?
What, like Kevlar thread or like what? Oh, okay.
Note to self: never eat Kevin's fish. Okay, Ethan. So how about the guy who's got a very particular diet, as you mentioned yourself? What's your favorite go-to?
Yeah, I like to stick with the heavy and carb stuff. I like a good spaghetti dinner, dehydrated spaghetti. That's my go-to, and it's always it's awesome. At the end of the day, it's just like, man, I like it a lot. It's rewarding. Yep. That's my go-to.
And for those of you that like to dehydrate food, Ethan actually has a very good video on making a big batch of pasta on his YouTube channel. For all these fellas that are here on panel with me tonight, there you can get to all their YouTube channels. I got the link in the description below, so make sure you check them out. But that your recipe there and it's all from scratch too.
Yeah, so Dennis.
Yes,
my girlfriend's online.
Is she?
Yes.
Hi, Christine. How are you?
She's defended me.
I just want to apologize to everybody. I know there's been a few questions coming up, but I am the conversation's going really good, and I've been stuck on this one here for a little bit because I wanted to show this, and it's from Alexis Outdoor asking, how the hell do people manage food barrels? I couldn't imagine lugging a food barrel. I ditched my gear for my food bag to fit in my 55-liter pack.
That's the problem with food barrels. Because they're so large, you just want to put more and more food. You want to fill it up. Mm-hmm. And because you fill it up, it gets super heavy. So if you're going to buy a food barrel, buy the smaller 30-liter barrels.
That's what I'm
manageable. Otherwise, because I got a 60-liter food barrel, and I fill it up every time. And exactly, it's stupid. It's so heavy.
And the really important thing about food barrels were created. My God, I sound like a freaking Uncle Kev crap again, but food barrels were created back in the 80s by, actually, I forget the outfitter, Trailhead in Ottawa. They were going on northern trips, and when they flipped into the rapids, they wanted to get their gear wet. And so they actually got barrels, and they put a harness system to them. So then we created this whole system. If you have a bad harness, like a cheap harness with no padding in the back, it's stupid to carry a barrel. I mean, you're carrying a round object on your back, right? So
it just rolls across your spine.
Yeah. So I mean, the best barrel harnesses at the time were Ostrom harnesses, but they cost you like $200+ or more than that. I mean, they last you a lifetime. But now, whether he's not in existence anymore, I think he's coming back out with them. But I haven't really seen a replacement that was that comfortable. If it's not comfortable, do what you're doing is put your food bags in a waterproof container in your pack with you. That's fantastic. The other thing is just go to the grocery store and get to know the person in the back that will actually give them to you. But all the barrels, the true olive barrels, get the 2 30-liters, put them in a canvas pack and put a thermarest back behind you, and you got it something really cheap.
I've just come across a really interesting comment here. You might want to read this one, Kevin.
Oh no! I'm actually doing turkeys. But
Cedar Lake, Pine Martin, Cedar Lake.
yeah, it's good.
So yeah, back on the barrel thing, but yeah, I agree with you guys as to the smaller barrels. I think are a wiser choice, unless you're using that barrel to actually also pack your your stove and your pot and pan set or something like that. But that there is I think a recipe for destruction. Like so you're setting yourself up to fail. And I could give you an example of that. Mr. Jennings, Brad, and Leah were on a trip, and they had their fuel packed in with their food, and I guess they had a leak, and they lost half of their food on a trip. So to me, I don't think the two should ever go into the same container, just for that reason, right? For the same reason why you might not want to put if you bring alcoholic beverages with you, you might not want to put that in there as well. Yeah, well, we're all guilty of that one, Kevin. But that there again, you want to be able to make sure you pack that in a proper way so it's not going to spoil your food, because you only have so much food out there, right? Black Bush.
So we're getting into some really important questions here, Dennis.
Yeah.
People are asking. You gotta appease the crowd.
Yeah.
So for the size of guy that I am, I'm a big guy, and I can get 7 days out of my Ursac. It's equivalent to somewhere between 15 and 20 liters. So 7 days out of that for food for me, big dude. And I would think that a 30-liter barrel should last me like at least a couple weeks. Like I don't really.
Yeah, you're dehydrating everything.
Yeah, I'll dehydrate.
No problem putting it all in there.
Yeah.
And actually that was comfortably, like I had extra stuff I didn't need, like lots of pancake batter and all sorts of stuff.
What, for how many weeks? What?
That was for 7 days, just for me.
7 days. Okay, I thought you said 2 weeks. Okay.
I was saying a 30-liter should last me like at least 2 weeks.
No.
I would think so. 30 liters.
Well, I'm not going tripping with you.
Maybe
Well,
10.
it's just for me.
You're giving up a lot of goodies, man.
If you load it up with the snacks and all the goodies, and it's going to get tight. But
so I want to run this by everybody in the chat tonight. Let's see here if we can keep this organized. But okay, if you prefer dehydrated meals, put number 1 in the chat. If you prefer freeze dried, put number 2. And if you prefer fresh meals, put number 3. Let's see what kind of a response we get. Let's see what the consensus says.
All right.
I got a couple 1s here. Number 3. Yeah, so we're getting some here. We're kind of all over 1 and 3s, 1 plus 3s, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, that's pretty much me. I'm a 1, 2, 3 guy. I'd like to have my steak dinner, which is basically fresh fare, right? I'd like to throw in some dehydrated, and then, of course, freeze-dried. I always like my Mountain House lasagna. I think that stuff is kind of the bomb right there. So, welcome back, gentlemen.
For like all the camping trips that I've been on, the most popular meal among campers that never fails is beef soft tacos. Everybody loves them.
Say again, beef what? Beef
soft tacos.
Soft tacos, okay.
Good idea.
You just put lots of cheese in it and onions and some hot sauce. Everybody just wolfs it down.
I might have to do that. That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, do you have a recipe for that somewhere, Mark?
You just take ground beef, extra lean ground beef, or regular ground beef, and brown it. Put some garlic in there, brown it, drain it a few times, make sure you get rid of all the fat, then dehydrate it. And then you bring in some soft taco shells with you and well, depending upon the season, what kind of cheddar you want to bring in. If you're going in the summer, you want to bring in some meat, hard cheddar. If you're going in the fall or spring, you can bring in medium cheddar. Mm-hmm. And then you can bring in additional fixings you like. If you have like fresh onions, or if you have dehydrated onions, you can bring those back. Corn, I bought corn dehydrated and rehydrated it back. You can add that in there as well as a topping, along with also too the soft taco seasoning. So when you're rehydrating it, the beef, you got to put that in there, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then I heat it up a bit and stir it around, and and then you got the hot sauce, and that's great. And I serve that, and everybody just eats it up like nuts. So
I'm going to write that one down. New menu item here, of course, because I'm taking all kinds of notes, which I always do.
I got this new titanium cook set. I haven't taken it for my solo trip. So it's got this camera. Got two parts. One goes in the other. My fuel canister camera goes inside. And then my little MSR stove goes in there. And I got the lid. And that's it.
Nice.
Wow. Yep.
Waiting to try it out, hopefully in May. I haven't been on a solo trip in almost 2 years, and I'm going cuckoo. So I think I'm going to go for 10 days in May on a solo trip. And I'm really looking forward to a really nice, long, enjoyable solo trip with a minimum of weight. Besides my canoe, it's a beast. So.
Right.
Great.
So how many days will one of those canisters of fuel last you cooking for yourself?
This one here, I've never used a size this small. It's really small. But the other one that's up from that, like the actual half-size one, for myself, probably lasts about 6 to 8 days.
I got 6
4 days with a couple, and so probably double that by myself.
That size you have right there, I got 6 days out of it before.
Oh yeah? Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
But I also supplement a lot of my cooking with the fire. Like I try and use the fire to boil water as often as I can.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
And then I just use the stove when I'm feeling tired or lazy or there's inclement weather.
Every day for me.
Here's that's a great segue. Thanks, Mark, into getting into maybe talking about gear. And Camper 69 could kick this off. What's your method for simmering on an MSR stove? I have a system.
Turn it up.
The pot up higher.
Do not stop stirring, or it will burn to the bottom.
Yeah.
Take my word for it.
I've got a MSR Whisper Light International. And they say with that stove you cannot simmer. I can simmer with my stove, no problem. Just need low pressure, like low pressure on the fuel canister, and a very fine touch for just getting that little sweet spot, right? To minimize your flame, almost just a hair cracked over closed. And I can simmer with mine like there's no tomorrow. But you got to learn your stove. You have to learn your equipment.
There's a learning curve for sure.
Yeah, and that's the best thing. And you should do that with any of your equipment. Really, is getting out there and testing all your equipment.
Yep.
Right. So especially stove and cookware.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole evening thing about stoves because my buddy Tim loves the Trangia, which is fantastic. But yet really have to practice with it. I used to like the MSR Simmerlight and just finesse it. But actually the new jet boil, you can actually simmer that jet boil. The old ones were just but the new ones you can simmer. Or stick stove and pack away a Trangia with alcohol. That'd be good. Right? I don't know. It all depends what your skill set is for each stove.
Yeah.
I have the Pocket Rocket 2, MSR Pocket Rocket 2, and I can simmer pretty well with it. Just gotta keep it really low, till it's barely on.
Well, MSR has their, what is it? I think it's called the Dragonfly.
They have that.
Great stove. But I'll tell you, if you don't mind, camping next to an airport where there's constantly a jet taking off, they are the loudest stove I have ever heard in my life.
Yeah, my buddy, bring it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one?
The MSR Dragonfly.
Oh, the Dragonfly.
You will never hear the bear sneaking up behind you.
For takeoff.
Yeah. They sound like a jet engine going off, right? And it's
Camper Christina was just asking where I got that cook set. I got it at Mech. It's titanium. It's 2 pots. So only got 1 pot. It's actually 1 cup going in a pot. And I bought the MSR. What the hell's the name of that stove? Anyways, I bought that MSR stove, and it fits in there along with the fuel, and it's perfect. So that's all you need. Sorry. Continue.
No, not a problem. That's what this is all about. So you've also got things like Mama Bear wants to know what's everyone's go-to water method. That has really come a long way over time. Everybody's running off to get their gear right now, right?
I just got this in the mail. Well, 2 weeks ago I got in the mail. I've never tried it before. Has anybody tried this?
Rapid Pure.
Yeah, I know. It looks kind of cool. But in the past, I've used the gravity filters. Yeah, the one that Mark has there.
Platypus. And the platypus.
Platypus. Oh, that's a gravity filter? Yeah.
It's interesting, Mike, the
Got this piece of crap.
This thing is awesome. This thing.
Oh, little chlorine pills.
There we go. So everybody can see that there's obviously a ton of different ones, right?
Yeah, but platypus gravity works. That's the one with the two bags. You got the dirty water and the clean water.
Yeah,
I'll give the one the best.
So Ethan held up one here, the Canoedyne. They seem to be gaining some real popularity, these ones here.
Yeah, they're awesome. The flow is so much faster than everything else.
What, this one here that you're holding up there, Ethan?
Canoedyne Be Free. So it comes with a liter bag or a half liter. You can use either one, and so fast. It's incredible.
Really?
So fast.
Yeah, basically you scoop the water into the bag, you screw the filter on the top, which is like the nozzle, which is the filter, and you just squeeze it into your yap. And I had all my buddies asking me this year to fill their water bottles because I've also got the MSR like you held up there, so you crank and crank and crank.
Yeah, it's old school.
Yeah, the ceramic filter plugs up a little bit, and before you know it, you got to take it out and clean it. You get maybe two Nalgene bottles full, and then you got to clean the thing again. And these things here, they swish easy. They're so, I think they're great convenience for a solo canoeer. Maybe not so much for a big group, but also those gravity feed ones like you showed there, Mark, are gaining a lot of popularity for in-camp water filtering, right?
Yeah, I really like those, especially over like the MSR, the Sweetwater. Is it the Sweetwater? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, they have a Sweetwater. Yeah.
Anyways, because like after a long day, you get to camp and you're just exhausted. And the last thing you want to do is sit there and go for like 15 minutes.
Right.
So the gravity filter is really great because all you got to do is just scoop up the bag, hang it in the tree, and it starts filtering. And you can do other things while it's doing it. I really like that. I know there's some guys that do the Sturry Pen. It's a UV water purifier, but that requires batteries. So I've always stayed away from that because it requires power. And if you lose your batteries or your batteries die or whatever, you're kind of in a bind. Mm-hmm. So I've always liked the gravity filter. But that new one there that Ethan was holding up, that looks really interesting.
It's awesome, man.
I'll tell you a couple downfalls of the Canoedyne system, though. And I've heard this from many, like a number of different people, is saying if you puncture the bag, you're screwed because it's a
put your finger over the hole and squeeze. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Speaking from experience.
Yeah, tape. I bring duct tape on every trip. It'd be fine.
Because the filter, the actual filter, it's like what do they call that? It's redundant, I think is just the term. It's only made for that bag. That thread is only going to fit on that. You can't put it on a water bottle or anything like that. And I know they claim the 99.9% free and clear of bacteria and things like that. But you look at the thing and it makes you wonder.
I drank some really nasty water out of this thing, the little swimmies in it and stuff, and I'm here. So
yeah. No, I've got one too. I've got the same one, and like I say, I loved it because the nicest thing about them, Mark, you get to a portage, you dump it out. You get to the end of the portage, you scoop it up and take your drink again.
Yeah. So
you're not carrying water with you on a portage, which, as you know, is additional weight.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to stop halfway, then you can carry a half a bag or something. But
yeah, liquid is a real problem on canoe trips, like carrying liquid around, whether it be alcohol, water, or maple syrup. liquid eggs. I bring those in like in May trips or late fall trips. I'll bring in like the liquid egg whites with like onion and chive flavor.
Mm-hmm.
It just liquid is just killer. So much weight.
Yeah. And hence the need for dehydrated foods, right? So I'm gonna go quickly over. I'll read through my list. Like I said, I've got this canoe trip planning list, and it's broken into personal items on the left side there, and clothing. Then you get into things that are general group items, and then of course some optional things. And the reason why I have the general group items is because when you're on a canoe trip with let's say 4 guys or 4 people, there's no need to have 4 axes, 4 saws. You're going to be spinning your wheels in the mud if everybody's carrying all their own gear. 4 dromedary bags or 4 cleaning systems. It just gets kind of crazy, right? So when we get together with the guys, we always have a meeting, and everybody knows their personal items are their personal items, and that's things like tent, backpack, ground sheet, sleeping bag, sleeping pad, bowl and plate, coffee cup, and the list goes on, right? And then of course your clothing, you're going to bring whatever you want to stay warm, dry, cozy, wet, whatever it is. But when you get to the general group items, then you can start checking off who's going to bring what. Like who's going to bring a stove if you're sharing a stove for everybody. Who's going to bring the fuel. You don't need each guy to bring 2 bottles of fuel, right? That's going to be a little bit too much, right? And just so on down the list. So like I say, if anybody wants a copy of this list, feel free to drop me an email at canoehound@gmail.com, and I'll get that off to you, and you can modify it yourself and make it work for you. It's a great tool to have on a trip. Kevin, what's your favorite piece of gear? I think we've talked about this one before.
People are thinking I'm falling asleep.
What?
I'm not old. I'm not Uncle Kevin. Alexis Outdoors, Uncle. It's out of control. What was the question, Dennis? Sorry.
I asked you what, because we're talking about gear. What's your favorite piece of gear? Like, if you, aside from your tent and your sleeping bag and stuff like that, what's a piece of gear that's sort of, we'll call it luxury gear? What's your favorite piece? Luxury gear.
Yeah. Okay, so this is something you really don't need, but I wouldn't go with that, right?
Yeah.
All right. Camp chair for sure, right? Helinox. Actually, Eureka's one hasn't broke yet. My Helinox broke last year, which is amazing because they're expensive chairs. And camp pillow. I can't go without a camp pillow. And a really good-looking canoe partner.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've got that now, right?
I know that she's listening, so I'm making sure. No, camp chair, camp pillow. Gear that actually you do need and wouldn't go without. I don't know. It's not gear, actually. It's no story. It's not gear. It's common sense. The best thing ever happened to me years ago. I was doing the Saugeen River, and we finished it, and we got robbed. They took everything except the canoe. And the next week, I was in the far north doing a trip, actually down the Turtle River. And what's going on? What? So when I was, so I almost canceled the trip. I said, we can't go. All my good gear is stolen, and we made the decision to go with all the old gear that I had back in the day, and we survived fine. It's all to do with common sense and not really the gear. I mean, my first 2 books were written on a canoe that I got out of the dump. Right? I mean, I love the canoes I have now, but it's nothing to. I don't know about you guys, but around the campfire, if people talk about gear and share all the gear for 5 days straight, I will walk out of the camp and leave them. It drives me nuts. Mm-hmm. Like, just filter your bloody water, what you got, and move on with the world, for heaven's sake. So, yeah, sorry. Oh, look, I just woke up. Alexis Outdoors. What?
What'd you say?
Is it?
How about yourself, Mark? You got a favorite piece of gear that you like to bring out as that luxury thing? That makes you a little teddy bear or something, or
teddy bear. No, the Heliox camp chair is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's just, you sit back and you're like, oh, this is great. You look up at the trees and it's like, this is awesome. Probably that and a little bit of whiskey.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's not luxury. That's a given. That's a staple out there. You gotta have.
No, I like the camp chair. Other piece of favorite gear. Oh, I got a new piece of gear this year.
You know what's coming your way there, Ethan. So get your hands are all prepared, right?
Got like a trail cam.
Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty cool.
There's a lot of campsites. Like I've heard moose come through the site at night, deer coming around. But sometimes I've heard other things. I'm like, what the heck is that? Now I can find out what it was. So I'll bring this on camping trips, set it up, and if I ever hear anything at night, I can go and check the next day and see what wandered through my campsite.
There goes my whole idea, Mark, of sneaking into your camp and scaring the crap out of you.
There you go.
Unless if you know where this is and you take it, then I'm screwed.
I did go up to one of those last year. I was going into a Crown Land Lake that, I knew some other person knew about it, and I knew about it and found out about it. And I saw a trail cam, and I mooned him. And he sends me a note. He goes, "Callan, you're in my lake today." I went, "Yep, yes, I am."
Did you like give him a moon or what? Did you flash him?
It was just a tush. It wasn't a full.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I didn't see Jupiter or whatever on him.
Uranus.
I was holding back, Dennis. I was holding back.
That's okay. No holding back tonight. We're here to take people's minds off the crap that's going on, right? So Ethan, you're next. What's your luxury item? A camera?
That's my favorite thing I bring on the trip because I can remember everything and I can share it with everybody else.
Yeah, well, that's a good one. I like my chair too.
And my hammock. My hammock's a big one too. I really like that.
I sleep in a hammock. Right?
Well, that's my
last couple of years. I've actually brought just a portable one that you get that layover day and you could string the thing up between two trees by the water's edge.
Yeah, I bring those.
Yeah, and you know what? It's like all the guys are like, "Okay, when's my turn?" So you have to share it, but I don't mind sharing the luxury items that much. Just not my chair.
When you string up your like recreational hammock,
yep.
Do you put your thermarest in it? Because that's what I do.
No, I don't actually. I never thought of that.
It's try it. It's nice.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, because I usually leave that in my Hennessy hammock there and let that ride, right? But yeah.
Oh, okay, you sleep in a Hennessy hammock. Okay, then you know what it feels like to have that in there.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So tools, handy tools for the camp. What's a great handy tool? Everybody carries a knife. We know that. Right?
I don't.
You don't carry a knife?
Technically I carry a knife. All I bring is a Swiss Army knife.
Which? I'm sorry.
Unless it's like a major backcountry trip when I know I'm gonna need like a fixed blade knife or something, I just carry a Swiss Army knife. That's it.
Well, that's a knife.
It's a knife. It's just a tiny one, but it's I hardly ever use it as a knife. I just use it like I have everything I need then. Everything I'll ever need. Like I have little scissors if I need to trim a fingernail. I have a toothpick. I have tweezers. Everything.
Yeah. I carry both. I carry a fixed blade all the time because I'm always going to be whittling something or batoning some kind of wood. I would prefer to carry a knife before carrying an axe.
Yeah.
A knife before an axe, right?
I'm not big on axes, really. I'm really not.
I'll bring a hatchet, but I won't bring an axe anymore.
Whoa, Mark.
What's wrong with the hatchet?
It's a death trap. It's like you're going to get your leg cut off for sure with a hatchet. No. The last time I took a hatchet years ago, I was on a trip. In fact, I was paddling by. I wasn't part of the trip, and it was a youth group. and the kid was squatting down, cutting wood with a hatchet, and he cut his scrotum open. And so sorry, this is serious stuff, and the blood was brutal, and I had to call a helicopter in to get him. And I said to that day, I go, I'm never bringing a hatchet on any trip, especially with youth. And yeah, you could say, well, you can teach that kid how to use it, but he's a 14-year-old kid, right? So things happen. So no hatchet to me. No, Mark.
Yeah. I don't always guys. Do in the winter time, but I'll bring it.
Winter time, yeah. You can't go winter camp without a good axe. In the summertime, you need wood the size of your pinky, the size of your arm. I bring a saw. And if
I bring a folding saw.
Yeah, if anybody cuts themselves with a saw, you can mend it out there. If they cut themselves with an axe, it's a carry out. So I don't know. And I totally agree with all the people disagreeing with me right now. It's just my personal choice is not to do that. So.
Oops, there we go. You have to reassure that you actually say scrotum, right? Yeah, okay.
I did not. I have no recollection of that event.
That there, my friend is brutal. I had shivers go down my back.
Oh, yeah. It was bad.
Oh, but now does everybody carry an axe on their trips with them though?
It depends on the trip for me.
Yeah.
I'll bring an axe during winter camping, but that's it. And sometimes it depends on my mood, really. When I go canoe camping in the summer, what kind of trip I'm on, who I'm with, whether I decide to bring a hatchet or not. Most times I don't, but I still like to bring it sometimes, especially when I'm soloing, because I just like to sit there and just chop up little wood for a morning campfire, like for a cooking fire, like if I have bacon and stuff. So I like to have a nice small fire. So I'll use a hatchet to split wood.
Yeah, I have no problem with bringing an axe on a trip. You only need one, obviously. You don't need the added weight of multiple axes. But I paddle with a couple of guys, the fellows there from Kid Products, and they don't, when they organize a trip, they don't allow any axes on the trip for the simple reason that if something happened, because it's probably the most dangerous tool you will ever carry in your backpack.
The risk. That's really
you get ricochet into your shin, or you always get that person that goes out there and they just start swinging the thing wildly, like they've never like they think they're supposed to swing it, and it's just an accident waiting to happen, right? If you're going, it depends where you're going too. So you're going to a place where you're only going to find thick wood, you're going to need an axe to split, right?
Right.
But if you go to a place where you have a lot of smaller timber that you're working with, dead standing pine or whatever, then you could cut that with an axe and you could baton that. So there's you gotta weigh the situation, I guess, with each trip that you're doing. Yeah,
I think this could probably lead into safety a little bit.
Yeah, well, that'll get us into safety. If anybody in the chat wants to know anything more about gear, if they have any gear questions, feel free to put it in there. Just put capital letters gear before your question, and we'll try and touch on that. But the segue there, the whole safety thing. Let's talk safety. First aid training. Who's got first aid training when they go on a trip?
I do from the military, but a long time ago.
I've got basic first aid, but nothing more than that.
Every 5 years?
I don't have wilderness first aid. I just have standard.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, guys. Like get together every 3 to 5 years and get together with your buddies, and it's like a date night. Go out and take first aid, and it's like compassing. If you don't do it all the time, you'll forget it, right? So and when you need to do it, like don't stand over the body and start reading the instructions.
Yeah. Where's that little book inside the first aid kit?
Right? Oh man, I know. Yeah.
And it is so important. To know some fundamentals. If you haven't got it, take some sort of training course. I know my buddy and I are planning on taking it this spring. Based on what happened on our trip last year, where one of the guys in our party cut himself from here to here, caught it on a tree. And that good thing it happened our first day in, because he was able to paddle out with his son, got all stitched up, and come back in and finish the trip. So we got lucky there. But had that happened right in the middle of the trip, when you're 3 days in on a 7-day trip, there's no going back out. if you go out, you're not coming back in, right? So,
Yeah.
and it was nasty. He actually 7 stitches, and as you know, there's not a lot of meat right here, so he was like right down to the bone, right? And we kept telling him, Rick, chicks love scars, right? So he healed up pretty good. But you never know what could happen out there. You know, you need that first aid training, and I'll tell you, I should, on my thing here, I've got first aid kit on the list. I should have that in bold writing. I should be bold and maybe 4 or 5 font sizes bigger, because it's probably one of the more important things you could put into your backpack. And everybody should have their own. It doesn't have to be huge. One person should have a good substantial first aid kit, and then everybody else, you know, the one with like the Band-Aids and the tweezers and a couple pieces of gauze and alcohol pads, right? But
the one thing about first aid kits, like, yeah, get one of these, right? Good kits. Take it all apart when you get it home and make your own. Everybody's going to need certain things. Like, get your medicine that you need. And actually, I make one specifically for my dog, which is actually this one. So the dog has his own first aid kit, because you never think about the dog. You're like, oh, the dog will be fine. Yeah. So, but put all your stuff in there that you know that you'll need, and then you know what's in there too. So again, you don't want to say, "Oh, someone's injured." Just a minute, I got a first aid kit here somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I never thought of that. That's a great idea, Kevin. Doing one up for the dog. My dog, you've seen Molly, and every time we go, she loves running through the bush, right? And every dog that runs through the bushes ends up nicking their eye somehow.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a biggie. And we have medications for my dog's eye, because you can always tell when they nick it, because all of a sudden in the morning they wake up and they got like the pus in the corner of the eye, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a great idea. Take note of that, everybody, is if you have a dog that's going into the wilderness with you, a nice little dog kit. Yeah.
The horse bandage is really good for dogs too, for it. But this company actually has a dog first aid kit, but you can't get it in Canada. It's only available in the United States right now. But what I did is I went to my vet and said, hey, you know, here's an idea. I'd like to make a first aid kit with you. And actually, she thought it was great. It was the best part of her day. So no charge. She actually sat down and made up a first aid kit for me. So.
Mm-hmm. I see a great question here from Ian Banfield, and I will get to that in a few minutes, Ian. So we will touch on that. So you guys can probably see that in the thing, but we're going to stick on safety right now. So we're talking about first aid kits and first aid kits for your dog, and the first aid training. What about the other side of safety and security? You know, like say, for instance, somebody had mentioned here about the spot devices or about the Garmin InReach.
Yep.
Are you guys techie guys? Do you believe in that? I know, Kevin, I've tracked you on trips with the spot device.
You have you?
I have. Yes, I have.
Well, that's interesting. I'm going to get my camera like Mark does, and I'm putting that at my site. Just yeah. You know, every time you say the word scrotum, take a drink.
You said that. You don't need an excuse to drink, Kevin. Just drink.
Sorry. What was the question? Yes.
About talking about Spot InReach and or Spot and the InReach devices.
Yeah. No matter what product you take, I'm a Spot person. That's because I'm used to it. I actually prefer it based because I know how to use it, right? And all the disadvantages of it that people are saying it's too expensive and stuff like that. And yeah, it might be. And people will even say, well, back in the day, we never had those. I wish I had those back in the day. I wish I had a satellite phone. I wish I had a Spot device. So for us that traveled without it, you're fools not to travel with it. I mean, if you have someone injured, especially when I take youth out, if I can actually get a helicopter come in and save someone's life, I'm liable to actually make sure I have that device. If I sort of said, well, you know, we don't really need that sort of thing out in the wilderness, that's crap. But the problem is like it's if you're only going on one trip a year, that's expensive to do that, right? So rent them, borrow them. I mean, my buddies come here all the time, and for a bottle of whiskey, for a couple, they take my Spot out for the week that I'm not out, right? So I would say those are better. I've brought satellite phones with me, basically do CBC radio and stuff like that, but I would choose like a Spot device more than a sat phone, especially the new one where you can text. So yeah, I beg, steal, and borrow one for sure.
Yeah. And what do you think, Mark? Are you in tune with these things?
I did use a spot device, the second generation, for a number of years. And that particular model, it gobbled up batteries pretty bad. I was really unhappy with the battery life with it. Other than that, it performed okay. I've had people say that they lost my signal for like a day at a time when, according to my spot device, it had sent signals out. Everything was fine. So I wasn't totally happy with the service. And I saw it more as a novelty device than I did as a safety thing, because I was very confident in my abilities. But I still kept it with me as a safety device because, you know, my girlfriend, she always wanted to know where I was and how I was doing. And so no problem. But I don't know, just after a few years, it just kind of wore off. And it's just like, I saw, to me, it was an expense that I could really do without.
Mm-hmm.
Also, too, I was unhappy with the device. But I hear now there's a third generation. It's much more refined. The battery life is supposed to be really good on it.
Oh yeah,
I've got the Spot Gen 3, and a set of batteries, rechargeables, lasted me all week last year on the trip. And that was with sending like every 5 minutes was sending a ping, which is way too much now that I look at it on the battery. But
you send it every 5 minutes now, eh?
Yeah. So, okay. What about you, Ethan? Are you a fan of, or do you carry?
I have a Spot Gen 3, and I only turn it on at the camp. Basically, that's just my get to camp, get set up, eat, whatever, message at the end of the day, like, hey, I'm okay. I don't use it for the tracking and stuff. I don't really have a need for it. I do want to get one of the inReach things at some point. I want to be able to text my kid's mom and ask how they're doing, make sure everything's okay, stuff like that. I like to know. So yeah, that's what I would get if I had to get another one.
Yeah, the spot device is something I had been wanting for quite a long time, and I wish I would have done my research, because I don't know if the Garmin inReach is any better than the Spot. Because I haven't researched, because I got the Spot now. But my reason for wanting it was I'm 55 years old, and one of the fellows that comes canoeing with us every year, he suffered a heart attack a few years ago, and he's back on his feet, and he's been tripping with us. Actually, it's the same guy that cut his face open. We run into that issue last year with that misfortune and event. And it's one of those things where, you know what, if you're in the backcountry and you're way, like, you're in there pretty deep, what do you do in a situation like Kevin said? If somebody drops, you feel obligated that you got to get this guy help, and you're not going to canoe out 3 days. You're going to want to get a helicopter in there at whatever expense it costs, right?
Right.
That's the sole reason that there, and just to let the wife know that a bear hasn't taken me yet. You know what I mean? But it's, I think, a great idea. But you know what? It's one of those things, and I hear the guys on Paddling Adventures Radio talking about it all the time. They always have the debate going, which unit is better and who offers the better deals and stuff like that. I think either unit that you pick up, as long as you have that escape, I think it's a great thing, right? So, but do you need to buy one? I would say I like, there again, Kevin's idea. If you know somebody that's got one, a buddy of mine offered me his a couple of years ago, and I took him up on it, right? And that's how I kind of said, okay, I'm gonna get one of these. Did it do anything for me? No, but if it has to someday, it's peace of mind, right?
I've had a little bit of experience with the inReach, and to be honest, I had better experience with my cell phone than the inReach. I was on Penn Lake, and I was able to reach my boss with a cell phone where the inReach failed.
Is that right, eh?
Last year, one of our sister groups had a medical emergency where a kid got his leg broken. And so they had to airlift him out, and he tried calling on the inReach phone, couldn't get anything. This was on Harness Lake. And if you know Harness Lake, there's a big cell tower on Cache Lake. You can actually see it from Harness Lake. He couldn't get through any inReach, so he opens up his cell phone, picks it out, no problem. Got a hold of the police, and they contacted search and rescue and got the helicopter in there and everything. Mm-hmm. Actually, what happened was I believe that they came. Somebody came in. Orange helicopter came out of nowhere and pushed the first aiders out of the way and says, "We're taking over now." And then that's search and rescue showed up.
Mm-hmm.
It just boom. And all this because they got a cell phone signal in Harness Lake.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a tough one, Mark. I've had that many times. Like I take youth out a lot, and we have every single device possible, right? And I've had sat phone. No, you can't go out yet, dog. No, come on. We're talking about body parts and drinking whiskey. Sorry, my dog wants to go outside. I've had with the sat phone. You really need to get into a high level, and you need to get near the shore. It just won't work under your rain tarp, right? So it's very frustrating.
I was on the point site on Penn Lake, the big beach site.
Really? And you didn't get us there? Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I've been on many times on CBC where they go, Kevin, we're not doing this live crap anymore. We never know if we're going to get a hold of you. I still throw my pack, though. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, you know what? Like, some people are techies when they go out there. They want the technology. I for one, I embrace it. I'm not saying that I'm going to be on my phone texting if I have a signal or something. It's good to have that there, and it's always just for me. It's a backup. It's a safeguard. It's something that can get you out of trouble if you need to. Yeah. I've been in places where there should not be a phone signal, and I had like full coverage.
Yeah,
it's like, and if you stand 10 feet over to the left, you have nothing. Right, so you never know.
It's really important to talk about that though, because so my rule is I have all the devices in my kit, and I tell two other people in my group, especially when youth, right? I said, okay, if something happens to me, you know where it is, but I don't tell everybody else, because if someone in my group knows I have a sat phone, they'll want to use it for stupid reasons, right? Yeah. So we're on this 7-day trip when the Blue Jays were winning, right? And the students were begging me to phone someone to see if they were winning. I went, this is only for emergencies. I want to make sure I have full battery life if something happens. And I felt really bad for them. So I said, look, it's the last night of the trip. One of you guys have like a 2-minute phone call to whoever to make sure someone's winning the game. And so the guy, he phoned, and his mom wasn't watching the game. And then I lost signal. And they're like, it was like lower the flies. Lower the flies was awful.
Yeah, jeez. So
people keep asking about the Dennis.
What's that one there?
Bear spray. People keep asking about it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Hold it up there. Let's see here. Tell us about bear spray. That's something I have never carried on a trip.
It all depends on where I'm going and whether I'm going to carry it or not. I carried it in Woodland Caribou last year because it was a solo trip, and it's Woodland Caribou. And I never saw any bears, so I didn't have to use it or pull it out or anything, but I always had it on me just in case. And I had my spot on my waist as well.
How long was your solo trip, Ethan, in Woodland Caribou?
How long? 7 days.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, there's somebody in the chat that I know is a faithful bear spray carrier, and that would be Martin Pine. He's along with his safety kit that he carries on his hip all the time. He's always got his bear spray with him as well. Anytime out.
Well, actually, Martin, I tease him a lot, but he's a smart guy. I would say the number one thing that bear spray does to you, it gives you a sense of security. It's a human nature to actually. There was times where I wouldn't bring bear spray because I knew people that brought it for the silly reasons that as soon as a bear came into camp, they start spraying, right? It's like, that's not what to do when a bear comes to camp. But at the same time, when you're in that tent at night, especially on a solo trip, and you got your little bucket knife or your little Swiss Army knife, that's not going to do it. And you mentally think, well, I have this bear spray. Then if I spray the bear coming in the tent, the canine pepper will blind me, and I'll be blind, and I actually won't see the bear killing me. So I think that's a really safe thing.
I carried a fixed blade knife as well as this when I carried this. Yeah.
Bear bangers are illegal in provincial parks. Somebody just mentioned bear bangers.
They are illegal?
Yeah, you cannot bring them into like Algonquin Park, for example. They're illegal. You cannot use them.
Really?
What is a bear banger? So like a firework or a firecracker that just
it falls under the same thing. Yeah, accessible noise.
Or just certain parks.
Yeah, they don't work that well in a Algonquin area. You have to be on crown land. When you do a bear banger, it sounds like a shotgun. So if that bear is in crown land where it's being hunted, it knows what that noise is and it'll run like hell. But if it doesn't, it'll just sort of look at you. The one defense I did, I've dealt with many bears. I have really bad luck with bears, or good luck, whatever. But the one, Charlie, the Cree elder, he taught me to bang my paddle on the ground and makes it look like a moose banging its antlers on the ground. And I'm not saying that this will work for you, but it's worked for me. I've shot the bangers and everything, and nothing worked. And I banged my paddle on the ground and being very aggressive. Because if a bear is coming in your camp getting your food, if you're aggressive, it'll move on. It's not coming into camp to kill you. If it's a predaceous bear, that's a totally different night for us. And we're going to have a lot of this before we talk about predaceous bears. The nuisance bear comes in, it wants your food. And if you be aggressive towards it, it will move on to someone else's site.
Cool. And now, while we're still talking about technology and stuff, aside from the bear banger stuff, this is a question that had come up way earlier. So I'm like way behind on the chat, everybody. I apologize.
I'll take this one.
Yeah. Okay. So Ian Banfield's asking navigation. Honestly, how often do you guys get totally lost? Ethan, it's in your ballpark.
All the time. I take my map and I'm like turning it, trying to figure out like where I'm at on the lake, and I cannot tell you how many times I have went in the wrong bay of a lake looking for the portage, like so many times. Just like you got inlets right next to each other, like, oh, it's probably this one. And you count, you try to count like inlets across the lake, like it's 3 in, and then you miss one and you go to the wrong. Oh my gosh. It's happened so many times. So don't feel bad if you get a little lost on a trip. It's as long as you get to the right lake, then you're good. But like it's the finding the portages and stuff can be really tricky sometimes. I get lost a lot.
Do you have any compass skills or any skills?
Oh, yeah, I have compass and stuff, but I mean I can see the sun, so I know the direction I'm going, and I'm fine that way. It's the fine areas that you're looking for is where I struggle sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan, actually, I think some people out there you're scaring people to go out in the wilderness. Okay, so
people. I mean, just
yeah. The only way I can answer with this, and I mean this 100% as positive. You need more bush time, man. You need to get out there, and this all will go away. Because if you're saying you're getting lost, like really getting lost, are you confused if you're
no, not like
between lost and confused?
Like temporarily, like just
disoriented.
Okay, so that's not lost.
No, not like lost. That's
you're
not what I'm saying.
your navigational skills at that time, right?
Yeah, we'll back up a little bit. Yeah, not lost. Never been there.
Okay, and really, if you can't find where the portage is, the only way that's going to cure that is more bush time. Like, quit your job and just stay in the woods all your life. Like,
I wish, man. I wish. It's the dream.
Sorry, I'm going off on tangent, whatever. But really, Mark, you answer the same thing. Is he just needs to be in the woods more. If you can't find the portage, you just need to practice till you know where it is. So,
I think it's really important when you're on a canoe trip, and if you're mapping it, that everybody has a copy of the map. You know, and it doesn't even have to be a detailed map. It could be like the drawing of a map, and then somebody has the topo maps of the area or whatever. But everybody should have a map on there because, you get to the point, if you do get to a point where you're a little disoriented, well, you bring the canoes together and everybody just chips in and says, oh, well, that's that point over there and that's that little island over there, right? And boom, you're all on the same page again and going in the right direction, right? But it also brings into thought GPS units.
Yes.
Anybody use GPS units?
I've actually been lost once and only once, and it was behind camp. Not on the water, not on a portage. It was at camp.
Mm-hmm.
I went out behind the camp, through the bush, looking for firewood, kept going, and I turned around. I looked for a spot that I was familiar with that I would get back to camp. Kept going, chopping up wood, kept going, made piles, kept going, kept coming back. And then after about an hour, I'm like, wait a minute. Where the hell am I? It was September. It was an overcast day. I couldn't see where the sun was. Once I went past the bush line, it was mostly birch trees and some pines. There was no moss on any of the trees. So I was completely lost. So I started yelling names, listening for responses, didn't hear anything. I had my whistle with me, which I'll take sometimes in the backcountry because, believe it or not, you just don't need it out in the water. You need it in the bush too. And I blew on it, still nothing. So I actually started to get worried. And I couldn't climb any of the trees because they were all birch trees or they were like really small pines. And I'm like, what do I do? Okay, so pick a direction and go. So I picked a direction, and after about 15 minutes, I ended up finding some old culverts. And what I actually ended up stumbling upon was the old access road for access number 17. I was on Crotch Lake. So I ended up being way down at the end. Like there's a series of about 4 or 5 campsites. We were at the first campsite. I ended up going all the way past all of them, hitting the Narrows, which goes from Crotch Lake into whatever that lake is. And I ended up having to come back and walk through all these campsites back to my site. And when I got to the camp, I says, did you hear me yelling? Did you hear my whistle? And they're like, no. And I was just behind camp.
That's crazy.
Yeah, sound deadens really quick in the forest.
What's that?
Sound deadens really quick in the forest.
Yeah, that was the only time I ever really became lost, and I was actually quite worried. I mean, and you're thinking, oh, there's the sun. Well, it was overcast. I had no idea where the sun was. No direction. I completely lost sense of direction. And you know what? If I had had a compass with me, I probably would have figured it out. But I didn't bring one with me. Who thinks to bring a compass with you when you're just going back to collect firewood?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a great story, Mark. I'll do mine really quick, and I probably maybe told this before, but I've exaggerated stories before because I'm Irish. But I've got some in my head that actually absolutely happened. And I'm doing the Missinaibi River when I was 22 years old, my first big solo trip going all the way down the Missinaibi, and I'm almost towards James Bay, and then what? God, what? So I'm going towards James Bay. So you think about this, and you guys think about what you would do at this time. So I'm going down the solo tripping, and I see a wolf on the left shore. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. I see this wolf, and I pull to the shore, wanting to get a photo, and the wolf takes off in the bush. I run up into the bush with my camera, and then realize I don't see the wolf. I'm in boreal forest. So it's all the same jack pine. All the trees are the same. And I'm thinking, oh, crap. My map and compass are on my deck plate of my canoe. That's not where I am right now. Oh, crap. It's the same thing that happened to you. And okay, how do I get back to my canoe? So think about it. The sun is out, thank goodness. And the sun is a really good way to find direction. So it's 7 in the morning, so the sun is rising in the east. So in theory, if I walk towards the sun, I'll find the river. What I did do is I did an offset. So I went to the right a bit, knowing that I would go upriver a bit. So when I got to the river, I would walk downstream and get to my canoe. And I did. I really tried not to panic. But I was in my early 20s, my first big solo trip right towards James Bay. I was a freaking idiot. This is a true story. I love this part. I get to my canoe. The wolf is on the other side of the riverbank looking at me like, you're just stupid. So that it happens, right? It happens. And yeah, you're supposed to keep your compass with you all times, or your GPS, but things happen though. Mark, I a couple of my colleagues, that's where they got lost. They actually went out to take, a poo in the middle of the night, and then couldn't find their way back to the camp, and then started blowing the whistle.
Yeah. Yeah, a compass is probably a really good handy thing to have in your pocket at all times, especially when you're out there. I think I would be carrying mine around with me a lot more often because, I was actually like, I could feel the panic welling up inside me. I'm like, oh, don't panic. Like, gotta think my way out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and a lot of my students will think that they have the ability to find direction. The human being has no ability to do that. The bird can migrate. Other animals can migrate through that gravitational pull, whatever. We can't, but we do. It's true. When we walk in the woods lost, we'd always work our way leftwards with the spiral of the earth, and that's the whole idea is coming back in a circle. That's where that all comes from.
Mm-hmm. I've got stories about getting lost. Not me personally, but people in our party. But the show's not going to last long enough for me to tell the story because this one adventure we had, I'll tell you what, it was a fiasco. And we almost got saved by hunters thinking we had a bear in camp, and I'll save that for another week. Maybe we'll do a show one time about getting lost in the woods. Okay. Anyways, let's see here. We got a couple more quickies to touch on. It's right now it's 10-8, and I've even missed my swag giveaway. So stick around to the end of the show because I'll do the swag giveaway at the end of the show. But let's see here. Good resources for planning your trip. Kevin, you are a wealth of information when it comes to planning trips. Obviously, you have how many publications?
Yeah, but let me show you let me show you some old ones that is really cool, like that you don't maybe not know about. I mean, yes, I'm a really bad business person. Yes, I read a bunch of guidebooks, and that's great. This is a really old one if you can find it in the books at the library. Well, you're not allowed in libraries right now, but when you are, look for that book. It's a whole bunch of rivers in Ontario, and it gives you all the information. This one here, it's goods and bads. I mean, this is a really good book. He does show some secret trout spots, but I don't really like him doing, but this is a really good wealth of information. Love that book. Another one, actually, is this one. It's not really specific information, but it's all journal entries of a whole bunch of routes in the far north. That's awesome. Speaking of that, oh my Lord, look at that. This is a book we talked about before. This book is freaking awesome. It is all the far northern rivers. This guy, whoever made this up, is just immaculate. All the maps of all the.
Wow. That's a great coffee table book.
Oh, it's not a coffee table book. You got to put this in your pack while you're going. All right. Even old books like this, if you can find them, right?
Yep.
And we all know Hal Wilson, but really, if you monogamy, he's the guy.
Pat Wilson. Yep.
Yeah. Or Manitoba did that. The old. This one, if you can find this too.
Oh yeah, I got that one downstairs. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is the one. Basically, get that book. He has one on the Miss Navy as well. What else I got this? Oh yeah, these things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They actually have roots in them. Those things. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's all sporadic, but you can use those.
They sell them at the Sportsman Show. Usually, they've usually got a setup there, which also has been canceled, by the way.
Yeah, they're all been canceled.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks a lot. I was having a good night until you mentioned that.
Sorry, dude.
But even books like this that you'll find in the library, this is a book that a bunch of women put together of women on trips, and you can get a lot of really decent information about rivers I didn't even know anything about. So it's not as detailed. But yeah, they're really good books.
And of course, Mr. Callan's being a little too humble, but there's a lot of Kevin Callan books that you can actually find in bookstores and whatnot. Kevin could tell us where to buy his books because Kevin sells them.
I don't sell them. The Firefly does, and I make a royalty percentage of 8%, whatever. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's. I wrote those guidebooks. We talked about this before. Oh yeah, that's a really good book. I had that book. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. If anybody's looking for some of these books, a great place to check for these things, and a lot of people overlook this, but places like Value Village or any thrift stores that have a section of books, go check it out. You'll be surprised how many of these types of books you'll actually find there, aside from going to, buying a brand new book from somewhere. Sorry, Mr. Author over here, but you know what I mean? But some of these books that you were showing there, Kevin, are books that you can't get off the shelf anymore.
No, I was at Talese a couple weeks ago when my daughter was at dance, and I found my Killarney book there, and it was signed to Jill. And so I went to buy it, and I just started laughing. I went, I'm buying my own book that's signed to Jill. I guess Jill didn't really like the book and whatever, or maybe she passed away. I'm not sure. But I'm a bookaholic. I live in a very small place, but this place is just the wall for books. but yeah, you got the websites too, maps and everything else. But yeah, there's lots of information to get you out there. And it all comes down to, we talk about trip planning, how many days you're going, who's going with you. The average tripping person goes from 12 to 22 kilometers a day, depending. And on a portage, they go, what are we looking at? What?
Oh, somebody was asking what is the title of that book. So.
Oh, yeah. It's a really good cookbook. Yeah, really good book. Especially if you're a Dutch oven person.
A couple other great resources. You can obviously right here on YouTube, the people that you follow on canoe trips, a lot of times if you reach out to them, they'll be more than happy to share information on the trip, maps, lengths, details, access points, things of that sort. We mentioned earlier, just doing generalized searches on the internet, you'll find different resources. It could be a lodge in the area that is documenting a trip that might be close to them or something along that lines.
You look at Brad Jennings and also Jonathan Backcountry Angler. Like, you look at their websites, they have maps.
Yes.
And Jonathan actually is a map guy from the college I work at, and excellent. Like he mapped out the Noganosh area. He mapped out the Grassy. He mapped out a bunch of rivers that he did. I don't know if you guys know about that, but check out his site. He's got maps on all these routes and very detailed.
Yep. We mentioned earlier MyCCR. Get on there and check it out. You'll find all kinds of map routes and information, as well as forums. There's forums on there that you can actually get on there and ask questions about water levels and things of that sort. That's always a good thing to know too when you're going backcountry camping or canoeing is what time of year is it? What are the water conditions going to be like? Are you going to be paddling a river that's just a big boulder bed, rock bed, or are you going to be experiencing high, fast water? So that's something you want to take into consideration every single time, right? Martin Pine is another good resource for this type of stuff. He can turn you on to a lot of different Crownland campsites and routes that you might not know about. He's kind of a guru on that type of thing, so check out his website.
But not fishing guide.
Not fishing guide. Not a fishing guide for sure. What else do we have? What else do we have as far as that? Magazines. You might find publications and magazines that somebody that's done a trip has written an article. So if you could find old paddling magazines, that would be a good resource, most definitely.
Outfitters.
Oh, Outfitters. I was just going to say another Outfitters. Check out Algonquin Outfitters in Huntsville, perhaps. Go in there, see Nate Muskoka, who's in the chat tonight, or a couple of other people that work there. Gavin, they all know these great routes out there. What do you got there, Kevin? Hold it up.
Just a little thing about this. I wrote this book a few years back, and my publisher said, nobody will buy it. I went, yeah, but you owe me. And all these routes that are going to be lost are going to be lost. So I wrote this book, and to watch all the YouTubers now following these routes, that's what it's all about. If we don't paddle those routes, you can kiss them goodbye. I'll let you know right now.
Yep.
I'm getting.
And you know what? Those are the routes I like to paddle myself.
Is the Bon River in there?
Huh?
Is the Bon Cher River in there?
Not that one, no. But that's a good trip. Don't do the upper Bon Cher. Have you done that?
I've done the Bon Cher from McCaskill all the way down.
No, and you're alive.
Yeah.
You walked that river, didn't you? From McCaskill to.
No. There was some good one. No, we did not walk that river.
Really?
I actually got swept downriver about 60 feet.
Oh, in early spring.
Yeah, I went with David Lee and Smedley Coe and Mark Scarlett. Yeah, we had a good trip.
Really?
Yeah, that was about 5 or 6 years ago.
The park took that off their map now for a reason.
Well, yeah, I think it had something to do with the Ottawa YMCA Canoe Club or something.
No, it had to do with your walking the bloody thing, and there's no walk from McCaskill to the to where the cabin is. Cabins where all the people died. From there on, like historical, yeah, it was. But no, man, like don't tell people to go on that trip. They will never go canoeing again.
No, I didn't tell them to go on. I just was wondering if it was in your book. Well, we went to Bay. The water was high. It was beautiful.
No, for many in many of my books and articles, I've written from the cabins down to the Bonnechere, or not Bonnechere, the provincial park down at Golden Lake. Yeah, it's a lovely route. That's a lovely route. But the upper part, like, you're just walking. Like,
oh, it's a beautiful river. I wasn't much into rivers until I did that trip, and I'm like, wow, this is nice. But rivers really aren't my thing. I mean, I like rivers, but I'm strictly I'm a flat water guy.
yeah.
I'm not 20 and I'm not pumped full of adrenaline anymore, so I don't need to do rivers like that. That was crazy. So, but it was fun. It was beautiful. It was all about the river, that trip. It was just...
The river does have a lot of history. The whole Obiango Road and the logging that happened and that whole travel corridor is just like, yeah. The first 2 days, like I've done it twice. I did it once and said no, and then I said, well, I'll do it again just to verify it, and I walked that thing. So
yeah, there was a point, probably about halfway down, where we had to do some bushwhacking. Yeah, we had to walk because there was just you can't paddle it. It's class whatever 4 or 5 if there is such a thing.
yeah, well, there was a difference when I did the Lost Canoe Route books. These were routes that actually were lost, but were canoe routes. So they were not these insane trips of adrenaline. Hats off to everybody that does that. I'm not that person. I follow routes that were done by First Nations people and then taken over by the government when the Ministry of Natural Resources did maintain routes. So these were all pamphlets that I followed. I didn't make up routes out of my head. And if I did a route, like some people will say, well, geez, Kevin, you know, I did that one route and that rapid is not as difficult as you think. I went, well, yeah, if you want to run the rapid, run the rapid. But I sort of have this whole, it's a different night to talk about, though, Dennis. It's like basically there's specific routes that are Ontario routes that have always have been, but you can't just make up a route anymore. I mean, well, you can't, you never could, right? Private citizen just can't say, well, this is a good canoe trip, and then start putting signs up. Mm-hmm. So, but with the McCaskill one, that's a beautiful lake, though.
Yeah, I like that lake.
It's a gem. It's aqua blue, huge brook trout in there. Yeah. So I'm blabbing.
Really quickly, guys, I just want to put this out to everybody in the chat. We're at 2 hours in right now on the show. Put a number 1 in the chat if you want to go on for another 15 minutes, or if you think we're about done. I don't want to take up everybody's time or make people feel obligated as if they have to stay in, but the topic seems to be going very good tonight, and I'm having a good time with it for sure, right? It's nice to see you. We're seeing a bunch of ones. We're going to carry this on till probably about 9 o'clock. I am going to get my question in here really quick, though, for my swag giveaway. I'm going to give 3 packs of Canoe Hound Adventure sticker packs away. And it's going to be a really, really simple question. To the first 3 people who could answer who my guest is going to be next week, you're going to get Canoe Hound Adventure pack sticker. We'll just let it go, and I'll check back later. But
I know who it is.
You're going to get your stickers when we go canoeing, buddy. Let's see. What do we got here? I see 1. That's right. I see 2. Okay. We got our winners. So let's see here. I'm just going to scroll back up here a bit here. And you guys, my email address is on the screen. And Adventures with Josie, you are a winner. Ari Rosen, you are a winner. And Doug Gray, you are a winner. So if you guys want to drop me an email with your full mailing address, I will get your sticker packs out in the mail in the next couple of days. So that was quick and easy today. It's nice to see everybody's paying attention. That's awesome. Alexis Outdoors is going to be our guest next week. Looking forward to it there, Karina. So it's going to be a fun night. Anyways, back now to the next topic was going to be seasons, canoe seasons. Spring, summer, fall, and the sulking season, winter, right? But okay, so if you're planning a canoe trip for the first time, when's a good time? Kevin, or no, that's Ethan. You can answer this one.
First time, I would go probably with an early fall.
Early fall?
Yeah, or like a late summer, maybe end of August or early September.
And reason being?
No bugs.
The bugs. That's probably the biggest. Yeah. How about yourself, Mark? You have a preference, obviously.
The very first camping trip or first solo trip?
Well, no. Like, what's your favorite season to canoe?
Oh, my favorite season to canoe. September, October, fall. Yeah. Always. Fall, summer, winter, spring, in that order. Yeah,
and I imagine, Kevin, you're probably feeling the same way.
Yeah, except right now it's the spring.
Yeah. That ISO trip, right?
Yeah, but then the bugs get out, and then you're like, oh crap. I do most of my really big trips in June, especially with Andy, basically because of holidays for him and timelines for his family and stuff. So that's the worst time to go. The bugs are really insane. Water levels are good though.
Daylight though.
Yeah, you got the Solus, whatever. But if I had to choose, it would be the same. Yeah, Marcus, it's September, October. The kids are back to school. The kid camps are out there. There's less people. Nights are nice and cool. Bugs are less. So yeah. But really, we're lucky. We have seasons. I've traveled in other places where, the good thing in Scotland, you can paddle all year round. I went on a trip in November down the Spey River, but it's just cold and miserable all the time, right? So,
yeah, I like the fall as well, but generally the guys I paddle with, we always seem to do like the second week of August, and it's always hit and miss. We've had snow, we've had mosquitoes up the yin yang, and we've had like no mosquitoes in the warmest weather. It's really a crapshoot, right? You never know what you're gonna get. But I like the fall trips because the bugs. I'm not a fan of mosquitoes, just like everybody in this live stream tonight. But you know what? It's the fall colors are nice. It's Or the really early spring trips are nice too, like the ISO trip, right?
Yeah, if I can get out, the only problem with the blackfly season for Algonquin is I love it when the blackflies just hatch, but the trout aren't biting yet. They're not, especially on the Nipissing and the Tim, they're not in the holes yet. So you really, there's a fine line, and if you go too early, you'll get lake trout, whatever. And I'm talking like an angler, but I love fishing. So, but I've been in Algonquin on Mother's Day weekend when there's a snowstorm, you couldn't even see in front of you. So, but at the same time, it's better than being home. So,
yeah. The middle of summer, during bug season, I'll tell you, I've seen in some of your videos, Kevin, where the mosquitoes could pick you up and move you over 5 feet, right? Or the deer flies. If you get that hatch of the deer flies, even that's a horrible time too. Eh?
Last year the deer flies were brutal. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I found the deer flies were like plague-like.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, we can't use that.
we experienced, my wife and daughters and I experienced that one year. We went to up in Temagami. We were on Sucker Gut Lake, and we were in this campsite that. It was a great campsite, great campsite. It was our central hub to Maple Mountain and then the Temagami River and like a whole bunch of areas. We got one day just inundated by these the horse flies, the great big ones, the big black guys, right? And they were like quite literally covering everything to the point where we all had to put on our life jackets like diapers, right, and jump in the water and just float so only our head was out. And those are the flies that always buzz around your head, and you take them over by your buddy and you go under the water and you pass them off, right? But it was like that. Our poor yellow lab, we couldn't even see the yellow. She was just covered in them. It was like we hit a swarm, one of those like the what do they call it? Those locust storms. Oh, it was horrible. I never experienced anything like that before. But yeah, that's my story.
That's brutal. We forget that this time of year, though. We're all excited to get out, and then all of a sudden the bugs come out. Oh yeah, winter camping. What the?
Karina.
Oh my Lord! And she's on next week, is she?
She is next week. Yes.
Oh my Lord! There'll be no foul language next week, Alexis Outdoors. That's not a real name. What's her real name?
Karina.
Karina.
All right.
Yes. And Karina, will Ryan and Grizz be joining you next week?
It's all wait in suspense.
Everybody stare at the chat.
What's she gonna say?
Here we got a question here from Daniel Doorsman there. What about ice out water temps if you roll? Dangerous?
Oh, yeah.
Always dangerous.
Yeah, always.
Always dangerous.
Yeah,
The best thing to do is not roll.
Yeah, just remember, guys, like this is all going to happen at time. It happens every year, and especially this year because everybody's going to be really anxious to get out there because of what's going on. Just like my mom said, just didn't be stupid. Okay, like we all want to go out there, wear your PFD, be smart about going across big lakes. And every year, I'm the guy that gets stuck on media, not stuck on media, but I'm the guy on media that has to talk about some drowning, and it's a repetitive thing, and I don't know what to say about it. It's like, just think about it before you do it, right? And the more accidents that happen, the more restraints that are going on for us paddlers. And we really need to educate people out there to be smart about it. So,
yeah.
Oh my God, it sounded like Uncle Kev. Scrotum.
You know what? The whole thing with this this whole canoeing thing. If you're new in here, I think we have mostly experienced people in here. But if you're new at this, when you're out there in the wilderness, you really have to use your head. You have to. You can't take unnecessary chances because the accidents will happen when you're not taking chances, right? So you really have to keep all that in mind. Is safety first out there. Cold water conditions that's one of the downfalls of paddling in the spring is you have cold water. Ice is out, man. That water is like 33 degrees, 34 degrees. And hypothermia will kick in quick, right? So it's a good reason to paddle close to shore. Don't take those unnecessary chances in paddling in white caps and challenging yourself with white water. Because the water levels are up on a river. It's all about using your head. Do you run a rapid or do you take the portage? Well, let's take the portage, right? Unless you got the proper gear, wetsuits, the whole 9 yards to save yourself. It's a dangerous situation out there.
You're a long way from anything.
Yep. Yeah. Not always, but you know what? I always say that if you're new at this, and say for instance you have a party of four buddies, and you all want to go out for a canoe trip, do one of two things: go to some place like Algonquin Park, right? Because there's always help. Well, almost always help close by. If you stick to something on the corridor, there's almost always somebody within whistling or shouting distance. If you run into a crisis out there, or even better yet, hire somebody like Mark. To take you out there. He's got the experience. He's going to take. There you go. There's your plug, Mark.
He's a very attractive man.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, and he's. You know what? He'll teach you the ropes out there. He'll keep you safe, and he'll cook you a good dinner too.
Mm.
Yeah, food is really important in the backcountry. If you're not eating well, you're not having fun.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah, watching last season of Mark in the Park, which we need to talk about tonight as well. Last season 1 of Mark in the Park. If you guys haven't checked that out, get on YouTube. If you click the link in the description below for Mark Rubino, Mark in the Park, it'll take you to the actual playlist of season 1, and it's awesome, man. The canoe trip that he did there with your producer and the cameraman, was it not?
Yeah, it was Matt and what was his name? Good fellow. What was his name?
Must not have been that important. Jeez.
Shame on me. Well, it's this stuff, eh?
Yeah. that the age, right?
His name is slipping my mind. Yeah.
We'll call him Steve. How about
they call that a brain fart, and you're entitled. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah,
not a problem.
Todd. There you go.
Todd,
Christina,
thanks, Christina. She's
you.
been watching.
Yeah, she's a good lad. Season 2 will be out next week. Next Wednesday, March 25th.
Yeah,
it'll be on Rogers TV at 9 p.m. on March 25th on the Wednesday. That's Rogers TV in Ottawa. Now, if you don't get that station where you are, you can watch it. I believe on the Rogers TV website in Ottawa, we'll stream it. If for some reason you can't get onto that site, there's another website called ottawamatters.com, and they rebroadcast.
You are cut off.
They rebroadcast the stream that Rogers will be sending out that evening as well. So yeah. So yeah, that'll be season 2 next Wednesday night.
Well, you know what? I'm looking forward to that. If you can, if you have any information like as to exactly when it's going to be on here, let me know, because I'd like to post it on my Facebook page.
On YouTube,
get that shared out.
I don't know the dates yet, but usually, typically about 4 to 6 weeks after each episode.
Yep.
So it takes about a month or so before it'll come on to YouTube.
Cool.
That may change. I don't know. I'll let you know.
Keep me posted though, because I'd love to get that posted on the Facebook page. And look, Dave from Beastly Ironworks, he doesn't think we're drinking enough tonight.
I'm out, and I'm not going to get another one.
Come on, Ethan.
No, that fridge. You see that fridge? See how far that is?
That's funny. Thanks, Dave, by the way. That's all right. So is there anybody in the chat that has any final questions for anybody on the panel here? Put it up now or forever hold your peace. Kevin's worried what's going to come through the pipeline. That's all right. What I'm going to do then, we'll get ready to close this up there. Just want to say that tonight's been a fun night. And I thank you, Ethan, for actually coming up with this topic tonight. I didn't have a guest for tonight, and I don't know if Ethan read my mind or what, but he sent me a text the other day when I was up in Algonquin winter camping for my final blast, which was the replacement for Canoecopia because we couldn't go to that. But he said, what's going on with the show? And I told him, I said, well, I don't know yet. And he says, well, why don't we talk about planning a canoe trip? And I said, bing, perfect. Great idea. So thanks, Ethan. That was a great suggestion.
No problem, man.
And I think it couldn't have come at a better time because it looks like by the attendance we had in this show tonight, we have a lot of people itching to hit the water.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
I'm with them.
Yeah, we all are. And as you all may or may not know, Ethan and I and Dan Schultz Outdoors will be doing our ice out trip. And I'm sure you're going to see 3 sets of videos for that one there, which is going to be cool. A bunch of different aspects of me shooting you, you shooting me, him shooting us, and the whole 9 yards, right? So
it'll be a good one.
That'll be a good time. Kevin, what do you have planned for spring?
I'm booked already to go to. My buddies and I are going this. We're not going on Mother's Day. I'm going on another solo trip for Mother's Day. Don't tell my mom. Mm-hmm. The week after that, we're doing 5 days into Bob Lake Nipissing.
Yep. So
this time, instead of doing the entire Nipissing, we're actually going to Bob Lake and going up the Nipissing to do some tributaries to see if we can get some cookies. So yeah. And Andy, he's got me going down the Pukassaw. He's got a huge list for me this year. You guys probably don't know, but Andy had cancer last year, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, he didn't tell anybody, and I'm sure. Well, I think it's pretty okay for me to tell everybody now. But he got through it. He didn't lose his sight. And then so he didn't do a bucket list, but he goes, okay, this is where we should go. So we're doing the Pukassaw. He wants to do the Bonaventure, sorry, in eastern Quebec. And then he wants to do the, what's the one up by the Winnis River? I just can't afford it. It's too expensive for me, so we'll have to figure something out. We're going probably Manitoba. I'm going to go to Quetico again. I got a big trip hopefully planned with Ray Goodwin from the UK. He's coming over with some people, and we're doing Killarney because he knows nothing about it. So we're going to go get boated up with Ted from Killarney Outfitters up to the west part of Bay Fin, and then we're going to paddle through Killarney, and then we're going to finish our trip up on the crack. So they can all see where we just paddled. So that's a good trip. Yeah, tons of trips. We'll see what happens. The one also is Frontenac all the way to St. Lawrence River. It's an old First Nations route that some elders told me about, so I want to check that out. So yeah, lots of places.
Wow. And what's Mark in the Park got planned for the spring? I know you mentioned you wanted to do a early May solo trip.
Yeah, I was thinking about going along in Nipissing and maybe up in the Gibson Lake for a few days. But
Gibson's good.
I
Yeah,
run into Kevin there.
Gibson's not. No. Well, when are you going?
I don't know yet. I don't know. I'll have to see what happens with this virus nonsense. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll probably go the second week of May.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that everybody's thinking about too. Like, we all have our plans, but if the park is closed and trail parks is closed, I get it. The staff don't want to touch anybody, so the interior is fine, but you can't go round me off. So I think Crown Land might be everybody's. Pine Martin, it's all up to you. Save us.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he already signed out for the evening, so.
Oh, okay.
Us Americans are kind of hosed if the border's closed. So I guess if there's an ice out trip and the border's closed, I'm just going to go to Boundary Waters.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I got.
Boundary Waters is fantastic.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and Quetico is better. I mean, I'm not saying that because I know Americans, that Quetico, it's a totally different environment. The trees are bigger and whatever, blah blah blah. The history, but yeah, that whole region is a mecca, right?
Oh yeah, I have a Quetico trip actually already planned. Sometime July. Actually, I can probably just say it. It's with Joe. Me and Joe are going to Quetico in July. I don't know details yet, but that's happening. So that'll be fun. Good
stuff. Good stuff. You must be all right at paddling if Joe's invited you along again.
I don't know if it's all right at paddling. I'm just good company.
There you go. So this question, I've had it on screen for a while. Do we need to answer this all together at the count of three?
I answered
3.
Yes.
Always carry an extra paddle. No?
Nope.
Really?
What?
I have a pack boat and I do a double blade, Kevin. You know that.
Yeah, but no, man.
I'm not. It's extra weight, extra bulk. Not doing it. Nope. I wouldn't do it.
Okay. Like seriously, like almost to God. Read the books, okay?
Hear that, everybody? Read the books.
Still, man. What the hell are you talking about? You don't bring an extra paddle.
I don't bring it out. If I have to, I can take it apart and make a single paddle.
No, you're not going to do that. Okay, Ethan.
Exactly. I'm not going to bring one.
Ethan, I really care for you, okay? And I want you to enjoy your time out there. Bring a friggin' extra paddle.
That's not going to happen.
Well, okay.
Look what you started. Oh, Lord Jesus. Here we go. Good stuff. Oh, well. Okay. So anyways, guys, we're going to pack this in for the evening. I just wanted to thank everybody who popped in or tuned in tonight to learn a little bit about the ABCs of planning a backcountry canoe trip. Not sure if you learned much, but I'll tell you the entertainment value is something to behold, right? That's all good stuff. Before we do close out, I just want to wish everybody in the chat tonight, please be safe out there. I know hopefully we took your mind off of all the crap that's going on with this COVID-19 Corona crap. You know what? Please be safe out there. Be healthy and make it so that you guys can see the spring paddling season. They're doing everything they can right now to try and make it safe out there for us. And it might mean a lot of inconveniences, but you know what? I'd like to see each and every one of you back in here in the chat after all this stuff is gone. There you go. Kevin's got the right idea. Yeah, he's got his safety mask on and the whole 9 yards. That's good stuff. Just wanted to thank Kevin Callan for joining panel. Mark, great having you on again. Of course, Ethan, looking forward to our trip here in the spring. It's going to happen. We got to think positive, right?
I'm trying my best.
Yeah. As a reminder, next week on the show, we have Karina, Ryan, and hopefully Grizz on from Alexis Outdoors. And we're going to talk a bit about her channel. And she's been seeing a lot of growth. Her channel's really been growing quickly of late. And She's got some great stuff that she's been sharing and a lot of collaboration videos. So I'm looking forward to talking to Karina and Ryan, and maybe I'll have Molly on screen here to say hi to Grizz or something. So that'd be pretty cool. And what else have we got here? So the swag giveaway, people, make sure you drop me an email, canoehound@gmail.com. If you guys want to see anybody on the show, drop me an email at the same address, just saying who you'd like to see on the show and maybe what reason why. And that would be that. You could check out Kevin, you could check out Ethan, and you could check out Mark, all on YouTube. The links are in the description below. If you haven't already done so, smash the subscribe button for Canoe Hound Adventures. Hit that thumbs up so that YouTube knows I'm doing the right thing, and that would be great. And that's about it. Keep tuned up to us with Facebook at Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show, and you'll know what's coming up in the future. Anyways, thanks everyone for joining. Until next time, I'm Dennis, also known as Canoe Hound, and keep the adventures alive, people. Stay safe and healthy. Have a good night.